the sense sphere. You must listen to our demands.
Well, hello. Good to be back. I feel as though I've never been away. It feels like it every time, doesn't it? Let's have a look. Well, we're going back this time to, was it the 5th of October, 1988, the start of my final year at Lancaster University, Politics and International Relations degree. I was in my digs with John, who was doing accountancy, Zach, who was doing computer science, and I stood actually watching the start of part 1 in our grubby little lounge, which reminds me of Colin Baker's story saying he was a uni student and watched An Unearthly Child at the very start and stood there transfixed for a whole 25 minutes. Well, I did sit, and after the season 1 we have just witnessed, I really did feel more gripped in this than I ever had been before, I have to say. So we will look at this story in various ways. You know the tricks with me. He's to advertise some of them. What would Shooty's doctor do in some of the situations Sylvester's doctor was in? We always like to have a little laugh at that. Of course, what lessons would RTD, our esteemed showrunner, learn from watching and studying how this was crafted and put together? So look out for that. So please, on the way, give us a like hike now so you can sit back and enjoy your rice pudding, as Sylvester would say. Switch on your notifications for the countless ones we're doing. If you haven't given us a subscription, you little tight devil, away. And of course, you can contact us in the usual places. I normally say X is best at Sensorsphere, give us a DM, or email at sensorsphere@gmail.com. Right, housekeeping out the way. Let myself just tidy myself up here. Okay, you know what I normally do. I normally start with something. Now, it's a Dalek special tonight. Look at it. Which Dalek would you choose? You've got the special weapons Dalek there. You've got a multitude. But right, let's get to it. So let's see. Where is he? Let's bring Gary on. Gary, I've got an oldie for you there. Good to see you.
Oh boy. First of all, I have to take issue with your characterizing RTD as esteemed showrunner. But that aside, okay, the leg on the ship is that Dalek Invasion of Earth?
That is, you're spot on, because the road markings as well help later on. But yeah, this is the BBC one, of course, not the movie one, which I'm sure is
the movie one is equally fantastic.
Yeah, they have a bigger ramp, of course. So welcome, Gary. This is going to be a good one, isn't it?
I hope so. I hope we do this great story justice with our discussion.
I'm sure we will. Now, I've just lost Michael for a second. So, Rachel, let's go and get Queen of the Walk on.
Hi, Royalty's here. Hello.
She's here. How can we do a show without her? There we go. She might be knackered. She might be. Well, that means look, it's the Dalek special. So hello, you know. I'm trying to think. This is obviously from the 70s.
That's the TARDIS, isn't it?
Can you imagine the Daleks in the TARDIS? Oh.
That would be scary.
Yeah.
They just sort of take it over. Which one's this?
I think this is.
I'm useless at putting these two the names.
I have a guess, but I'm not sure.
Is it It's not a pet week.
I think it's a pear tree. I think it's going to link with something I show in a minute. I think it's planet. Do you think?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Because they kept changing it to me. They kept keep changing the because this is obviously from the same photo sequence.
It's not that I don't necessarily know what the episode is. It's just I'm useless at putting the names to it.
So we'll
It was that one where they went to the planet and did the thing.
That thing.
Yeah, they did the thing. So this is the quality of the debate tonight, folks. You've joined in because we're going to be talking about the things and the thingamabobs and the blobbiness.
When they went over to the place and jumped through the thing,
and they said some stuff. I mean, Ace mentioned blobbiness, so I suppose
she does.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a different photograph up here. Yes, maybe that's because we've got Michael on. I'm hoping we've got Michael on. Is he there? Let's have a look.
Michael Light.
Yeah. Well, it says he's there, and then he's not. So what I'll do is I'll take that off. That's twice we've tried now. We'll have him on in a minute. So we'll bring on Scott, who used to be on. He's been on before. And I'll give you another photograph. So here we go. It'll be all out of sequence. But see, this is my favorite one, Scott. Look at this. Planet of the Daleks. Joe Grant is stuck in that craft. Oh, look at that. And look at the pear tree on the top right there. Oh, and this is probably my favorite story for all the wrong reasons, but I love it.
Oh, you're muted, Scott.
Scott?
Muted.
Hello? No, we can't hear you. Well, welcome to the Sensphere, where everything is going to be...
Just needs to check his settings. You know what I love about that top right picture? I always love the cameras that say BBC TV color on the camera.
Totally. And I'm getting Michael on before I lose Michael.
I'm sorry, it's just playing up again. Hi, folks. How are we doing? All right?
Yeah. We are good. We've got a photograph set up for you. There we go.
Hey, that looks familiar.
Now, do you want to tell the viewers what all this is about?
Yeah, I mean, basically, that photo is the building that featured in the Sea Devils episode from 1972. And as Brenda's flicked it over, I live just round the corner from there. And so every time I go up there, I think about the Sea Devils. But the problem is that where that is now is actually a nudist colony just in front of there. And so if I'm going around there now, which I'm only going to get a bit of sunshine.
Well, if RTD is watching, he's heading over there right now to set up filming.
Well, some idea for season 3 if they make it or something.
Yeah.
So
don't go there.
Is it all derelict and neglected?
Yeah, it's actually potentially it's going to be done up in the next 2 or 3 years. It's a lot of council planning's going, and they want to do it all up, regenerate it, have new bits put into it, and it really needs doing. So hopefully, if it does happen, it might actually maybe put off some of the nudists from feeling as happy as they are when they've got neighbours and things, and looking out the window and like, woo, you know what I mean? So, we'll have to see. But it's a shame it's in such a bad state, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a nice. Well, it is for us. That's not bad. I mean, that means you must have been close to a lot of Sea Devil footage down there.
Yeah, because it was filmed in Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight. And there's a lot of sort of visual aspects. When you watch the episode, you recognise it straight away. Yeah. And so it's quite cool because when I first watched the Sea Devils, I used to live in London. And, of course, I moved down here with my family. And, so it's a nice sort of thing. It's the only time the Doctor Who was filmed around my neighbourhood. And, it's pretty cool for that.
Maybe that's what the war between the land and the sea is about. It's just like Remembrance. It's about the nude Sea Devils versus the Sea Devils that like to wear the
because these Silurians, they didn't used to have clothes, did they, in the early episodes or something?
No, didn't. And I think and they're not the pure ones. I mean, we're going to be talking about fascism tonight, I'm sure, with Remembrance of the Daleks. So we've got the racial purity.
Yeah. We need to check. Say something, Scott. There he is.
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Well, there you go, Scott. It's a Dalek special tonight, so we've got a Dalek queuing up for the bus. Is it? I don't know. Look at that.
Could be.
I just love any of these pictures. I love, and as you know, I love a Dalek anywhere.
Is that you standing behind the Dalek in that picture, Brendan?
It almost could have been from the Longleat days, couldn't it? Wait till you see that picture. I haven't shown Melanie West and me at 8 yet, have I? I'll have to get to that. So, Daleks. Look at that Dalek on the left there. He's at one of our monuments in the northeast on a sunny day.
That's a cool monument.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Like
we
a
do.
telescope.
Yeah. So we like our Daleks. I'm not sure if you like the one on the right. I mean, what do you think of that one on the right under Jodie's era?
I don't mind it
I don't
actually.
mind it.
Yeah.
It's all right.
All right.
It's
Okay,
different.
yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're doing 2 factions tonight, aren't we, from Remembrance?
Oh, the Imperials, yeah, and all that. Yeah.
Now,
okay.
here's the Daleks on tour at the seaside. We then have them getting an ice cream.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
If it gets hot, get an ice cream. At the Angel of the North, there you go. Nearish to me.
Wow, that's awesome.
It is. It's the welcoming
North.
to.
Yeah. No, it's northeast, isn't it? So it's
Yeah. It's
Newcastle.
Look at that. Look at that perspective. Look how tall the Dalek is. How tall is that structure?
Yeah, it's a wingspan of a plane.
Yeah, I've driven past it on the motorway, and it is fabulous when you see it coming up the road. It's amazing.
If
It
they
really
cut
does
the
stand out.
trees, if they cut the trees a bit would help. It's supposed to be as you get close to Newcastle, but really you're entering Gateshead. But there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go. And of course, we're doing Remembrance tonight, everybody. And that's
Yeah.
polling
Yeah.
station. I don't remember that. That must have been an advert for something. And of course, let's get to it now. Come on. If you looked at that page, I don't know if Rachel would like this because, this sounds, it's like lads' toys nonsense, isn't it? But what would you think? What would you think? Would you get?
I used to play with Thomas the Tank Engines.
Oh, well,
Oh.
Rachel, she's in on it.
Yeah, I'd probably get the TARDIS.
Well, I've just got it over there. Who else has got that one? Has anyone else got it?
No.
I'm too young.
The TARDIS? No.
I'm
I'm looking at the
actually
Evil
young
Knievel
have the-
page.
I used to have an eagle from Space 1999. which I liked.
Oh, yeah. Those
And it used to be green rather than
Yep.
white for some
Really?
reason. But yeah, it was
Yep.
green the front of it. But I loved that when I was a kid.
Yeah. So there it is. I've just got it on the shelf over there. And it's
How much is that? $3.99.
It was only about £2 then or something. But
Wow.
it's still, it's all still in working order. I've got it over there and it's been played with. It's not one of those toys that was put away. It's magical, as you know. You can hide the Tom Baker if you press the red button, I think, and green, he appears. It's amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you spin it. He spins inside. But it was a good size. But there weren't many dolls made. So you got the Tom Baker and tried to keep the sonic screwdriver. I'd already had the Dalek. I didn't get the Dalek that was actually there. I got the K9, I got the giant robot, and I got the Cyberman. But I didn't get the Leela because, of course, I was saying, I am not getting a Leela. I'm a boy. I remember that.
What do the green and red buttons on the top do?
Make it spin, don't they?
They spin it. So basically, you spin Tom Baker inside. He's in a cubicle. And if you press the red, it hides him from enemies. So you open the doors and he's not there. You see space.
Oh.
And then, you
Wow.
can spend hours not. It's supposed to be like
minutes. You can spend minutes on it, and then it's like
minutes. And then you need to get your Dalek exterminating them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the vibe there. But let me bring you. Did you see these?
Oh God.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell is that?
Are you serious?
Is that the Dress Me Up dolls?
The Bi-Generation Doctor.
Why are they standing like sumo? They're standing like sumo wrestlers. What's that all about?
Well, there you go. If I bring it out again, I'll show you it.
God.
They've got very strange body language positions, haven't they? The way they...
Looks like
It's
Eddie
like-
Murphy.
What
I see that now.
Imagine if he did the laugh, the Eddie Murphy
Yeah.
laugh or something. That'd be funny, wouldn't it?
He's not
So
going to
there
put
you
He's not going to put no banana in a tailpipe. Or something.
Is this for Lego or something?
I think they're little. They're from the. Well, it looks like the character
It's not
options
Lego.
being
No, it's character. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not Funko, right?
Yeah.
I think I've got one of them.
Maybe it's Funko.
Which
Yeah,
one have I
okay.
got?
Because the proportion of the head is not proportionate to the body.
No, they're like them little bobby things, but a bit different. That whether they
I was,
catch
yeah.
on.
I mean, the height of the head is just a little bit taller than the height of the whole rest of the body.
I think it's for narcissists, is it? I don't know. I'm not trying to just work out.
Well, I can't.
It
have
looks
that thing
it looks
that-
totally bizarre. It looks like something out of the Elephant Man or something. It looks terrible. It's a really strange thing. It just doesn't seem to. No.
It's one of those things when some people say, "Oh, that's cute, I'll get it," and then there's other people
No.
going, "No."
I wouldn't get that.
To me,
That
that's
says the
cute.
box says
Looking at it.
convention. The box says convention exclusive. So I'm wondering what
Well.
con this was at. Was this it? This wasn't at Comic-Con, there would have been pictures of it around.
Yeah, well, I'll get it up. I mean, over the
What
oversea.
about
Good
the
to see you.
November one?
What is this obsession these days with weird squashed cartoony figures? It all started with Funko Pops, didn't it? Well, yeah, very much so. Now, if I make it bigger, let's see if I can. There you go. It does say convention special, doesn't it?
By generation.
Well, they're going to sell. This thing is for sure going to sell 3 copies: 1 to Tenet, 1 to Shooty, and 1 to RTD.
There you go. So, start saving up now for something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't do it for me. Now, last thing before we get into our time flash, everybody, and I'll greet the thread in a moment. This is of an age. This is
that's familiar.
Yeah, late July and early August in 1982. Who was alive? Who was watching? Who was in Britain?
Oh God!
No,
Not me.
No, it's familiar. It's like something out of CBeebies or John Craven's Newsround or something. I don't know.
I'm one of those horrible millennials, I'm afraid. So no.
You had Doctor Who and the Monsters. So this is the lineup for the night. At 8:10, you had Panorama.
Yeah.
9:50, you had QED, A Guide to Armageddon. Because remember, in the 80s, we were all scared of being blown up a lot.
Yeah, after when they showed Threads. My God, that was terrifying.
Yeah. 9:25, Taxi.
Yeah. I like that show.
Yeah. The 10:50, BA in Music, something like that. Obviously, BBC getting boring at that point.
Yeah, that's everybody's going to bed.
There's the run of the night. Doctor Who and the Monsters. 2 episodes banked up, yeah? And then you get your Panorama. I mean, it looks a bit of a dreary night, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think I might have done my homework. But there you go. So this is summer. It's out of season, and they've double banked it. And, of course, they were going to start with Genesis.
Okay. Good. It's a good story.
Yeah.
But these were all like edited. Were these all like edited versions?
I think they were just joined up. I missed some of them because I had to go to Spain with Mum and Dad. It was our annual holiday, so I had my uncle was videoing for me. You know, and you instruct all members of your family to do everything, and telling them basically they can't leave the house even though the video's got a timer, because I really do want this recorded. And I'm too fascist by half. I was, everything must be done. I used to have, when City of Death was on, my mum and dad, how dare they? They went on a cruise to Scandinavia. So me and my brother went with that to our gran and granddad's, and they had a poodle who always barked. And City of Death Part 1 was going to be on, and I used to do the audio recordings like a lot of us did.
Oh, I did that. Yeah.
So my brother wasn't allowed to speak, and he hated Doctor Who, and he was loud. The dog wasn't allowed to bark, and my grandma and granddad sat there, nobody's speaking because Brendan wanted to tape City of Death.
Oh, and we got this dog barking. That's funny.
So my City of Death recording now just has Mitzi the poodle getting told shush.
I thought I was the only person that I should get my audio cassette and actually record the episodes before VHS.
I'd love to see the video of that.
I bet it was a relief when they introduced VCR recording.
Oh yeah. The first thing I ever recorded was Resurrection of the Daleks with Peter Davison on VHS, my first ever one, and I was blown away that I could watch it again straight away after it was first been shown on TV.
Again.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved that so much.
Did you get Scotch?
Do you still have that audio recording?
Scotch, yeah. Sorry,
do you still have that audio recording, Brendan? I'd love you to play it and to hear all the shushes.
Yes, there's shushes, there's bangs, there's me threatening to kill my brother.
I'll tell you one thing, right? As a bit of an audio geek, what I could easily do is I could mix the recording of your recording with the live action episode, and so you can watch the episode and the dog's barking during the episode. That'd be quite funny.
No, you know what you do? Overlay his audio onto the video of the episode to where it's just, you don't hear the episode, you just hear Brendan shushing.
Yeah,
5 minutes.
Yeah, that could be good. Yeah.
The worst was when we had the 5 Faces of Doctor Who, because that was on at a funny time when it was bath night in our house.
Oh no!
And my bedroom was right by the bathroom, so you got all the noise of the immersion heater and everything. And I'm banning people from having a bath. I'm banning movement and don't get a towel. And don't you realise this is Troughton and I've never heard him before? I mean, he's just
I remember that. Yeah.
If Brendan ever does an Origins of Sense Sphere stream, all these stories are going to be on it. You know,
It just shows you, doesn't it? I mean, it is easier now, everybody, folks, who is younger. My God, family dynamics when you were banning anybody from breathing. My gosh. But it was for the sake of Doctor Who, you see. Anyway, Doctor Who and the Monsters, I remember missing it and telling my aunt and uncle that they must be very sure they're tape recording it. They were scared.
Yeah.
My mum, once we couldn't get my aunt and uncle, and it was another trip we were on, and my mum said, can you tape this for Brendan, videotape it, Doctor Who? And this family had never seen Doctor Who. And I remember they passed the tapes back to my mum and they said, God, isn't it crap? And
Just like that.
I thought Brendan went to university. Why does he like such rubbish? And I thought, oh God, I don't know. I mean, so embarrassing.
A lot of people just don't get it. They're just like, what is this about? And it's a weird thing how people's perspectives are completely different if they've never seen it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we're having a lovely chat about just being Doctor Who fans, and I'll just say hello to our thread, and there's loads of them. My gosh, we're all happy to do Remembrance tonight. SG said we had the Cybermen invade the TARDIS twice, but never the Daleks. Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Was that allowed with the shooting? And we remember that, don't we? Sean Cryer. The story was brilliant in prose, let down on screen by poor directing with some iffy acting, juxtaposed against some brilliant acting. I'm thinking of the scene with Ace surrounded by Daleks. Or the cliffhanger that went on for 5 hours. Yeah, that one. It did go on a little bit. We're mixing everything here. The nude sea devils, because they liked your photographs of
yeah. Thank you.
Fishnets.
We'll do a whole video at some point about nude sea devils.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
And they reckon the Angel of the North is a transmat beacon, says Rob Fellows. I'll have to check. I'll have to go and stop there. I've only been there once to touch it, so to speak. So I'll have to check. Lee Smith is mentioning it was the Japanese cute deformed figures back in the 80s.
Oh, the Chibi-chan.
Did you see them over there? Because you went to Japan about 10 years ago.
Yeah. I lived there for about 5 years. Yeah, they were over there. All those types of little cutesy squashed faces types of characters.
Yeah.
Sean
Cryer is saying, actually, Michael, he didn't start with Resurrection. He started with Kin's Demons.
Oh, yeah.
Similar period.
Yeah, very similar. About 83, 84.
King's Demons was 83.
Yeah. Over the Overseer, yes. You're calling me obsessive. I think some in the family have other names for me. SG, I did record most of McCoy's episodes, but long since recorded over. Oh, I know. I can give away the videotapes I bought, believe it or not, but I can't the ones I've taped because they're precious, aren't they? You remember taping them. Yeah. And you've added little bits. You have clips of other programs and you're thinking, no, this is special. I cannot chuck this out.
You remember the clips before the program. It's weird, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Warriors of the Deep, I distinctly remember I had a clip from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And it's the music when you see the Star Trek Enterprise for the first time, and it's all dramatic. And so the dramatic music fits with the Warriors of the Deep trailer for episode 1. I can't disconnect.
Just the way you put it together.
Yeah. So Left-Handed Jedi, my dad and I used to watch Doctor Who when I was a kid on the local Channel 9. Is that Australia? Sounds Australian to me. Yeah. Look out for our detox tomorrow at 12 o'clock, not 1 o'clock, because we're going a bit earlier because I've got to sort out some wedding plans. Rob Fellows, prop to the people who did record audio off air to allow for some of the I mean,
that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. I mean, without that, we'd have been stuffed. So I think it's time we looked at those Daleks in particular. That's from some convention when they were talking about Remembrance, or there's the cast themselves talking about Remembrance. I think that's at the BFI. I think it is time to talk about, you know what, our good old time flash. Yes, we're under starters orders. I might as well start with the cliffhanger, the famous cliffhanger. But But yes, here we go. Remembrance of the Daleks, 1988. Now, I promised that people are writing to me and they're giving me their opinions. So if I just kind of flash up here, so we've got Charlie Mentor just says Coal Hill School is used more wonderfully than in Attack.
Mhm.
The cliffhanger is utterly wonderful as a Dalek flies upstairs and levitates. For those who think Doctor Who is not woke, sorry, pay attention to every episode of this, like it or not, love it. But what was interesting, he says there's a pace here not seen in the show since maybe Delta,
Yeah.
but before that, not since maybe Legopolis, and a creepy but Doctor Who-ish atmosphere that hasn't been this good for a long, long time.
I agree entirely.
Yeah. It helps to have Pamela Salem back and the other prominent guest stars like that guy from UFO and Michael Sheard.
Yep.
And then talks about Mike being a hot, sexy suit. But you've got that. But this one's interesting because this is what Charlie Mentor says was taken out of Remembrance. But he does say this is the single best episode of Doctor Who since Earthshock Part 4. Let's get this out of the way. There are loads of wonderful scenes that have been cut out. One is the Doctor insulting Group Captain Gilmore, you lopsided masochistic moron, you human being, you chunky lover.
Okay.
Lover, okay.
Yeah, apparently, because he's called Chunky at another point, and
Is he?
Yeah, he does.
Group
Okay.
Captain. Yeah. Chunky
Yeah,
Gilmore.
Chunky
Chunky
something.
Gilmore. Okay.
But he says, but why is he called Chunky? I don't know. He also hides behind Rachel's shirt in one scene. That sounds almost like Matt Smith. More importantly, he heals Ace's ankle by touching her ankle and her leg.
Oh, okay.
Regeneration energy.
Yeah. Then we do have the Abbott and Costello driving sequence when they
Yeah.
swap
It
places.
was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's you. And of course, we've got one more. Over the Overseer. I need my glasses. It never works
Yeah,
with
that's
this.
quite
Let me
small,
just
that one.
let me just work myself out because he sent it in earlier today. You asked if this is the best political serial in classic Who. I would say not necessarily. However, it does provide the most powerful commentary on the inhumanity of racism without hitting you over the head. It's thought-provoking, yet still manages to entertain. Politics aside, I would argue that Remembrance is the best Dalek story ever. There isn't a single scene wasted. There's no extraneous dialogue. They have a clear purpose. The Dalek Civil War is compelling. And the fleeting use of Davros along with the interchange with McCoy in the 4th episode is absolutely iconic. I would go as far as to say it's the strongest serial of the 80s. It's well written. The Doctor and Ace are never stronger than in this story. Supporting cast are
Okay.
excellent. Music superb. The callbacks to Coal Hill. It just all works.
I agree.
I mean, opening gambits, everybody.
I think it's interesting that this episode starts off with the kind of the two factions of the Daleks, which was actually brought in with the previous Colin Baker episode. I think at the end of that episode, we saw Davros taken away by the White Daleks. I think it was. Was that right? It's been a long time since I've seen it. But it instigated some of the plots for this story, which is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I saw somebody who was responding to my thumbnail on one of the Facebook pages saying that they love the arc and which this finishes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sort of arc, which I thought was really good.
Now, Scott, you've said you've got really good memories of this story. Did you say this is the first one you ever watched?
Yeah, this was the first ever classic Who story I ever watched.
So when I talked, when I talked to Cinnamon and he says Midnight's one of his favorite ever, and he joined at a certain point. So let's get this right. You saw Doctor Who for the first time with this story.
This was my first classic.
Yeah, well,
Who
yeah.
story. Yeah.
And go on then. Tell us what your opening thoughts are about it then, because you obviously came back for more.
Yeah. The bit I can remember, obviously, after watching it was the Dalek flying upstairs to try and exterminate the Doctor. That was my first cliffhanger. I was like, oh, was he going to die here? I was like, so obviously on the disc, on the DVD, what I had, it just said that 25 minutes. I'm like, okay, where can I watch the next part? So I had to get I think I had the special edition and the normal version of Remembrance. Then I'm like, oh, I have to watch the next part on the next DVD. For some reason, I thought that. Then obviously, watch it all. I was like, bloody hell, that's actually quite a good story, this is. Then obviously, I went back. I was like, who's Ace? I'm like, okay, why it just says the 7th Doctor? I'm like, why why can't I watch all
Did
the?
you know? Did you know
What?
that Daleks could fly at that stage when you saw it?
I'm trying to think. Did I watch any?
Because
I
if
don't
you,
know. I can't remember.
because I'm trying to think, if you saw New Who, Dalek levitated with Eccleston.
I started watching the Doctor Widow and the Wardrobe. That was my first ever
that's
new
good.
one. So
Okay.
I don't think I don't think I can remember any Daleks flying in like Matt Smith's era. Actually, no, tell I. The Day of the Doctor. I think
Oh,
it was
they
that. That
did
was
in
my,
yeah, they did in
yeah.
that, yeah. Well,
Then
SG's in
yeah.
company with you. This was my first full story to watch too, and an original transmission. There you go. Rachel, your first opening gambits on this one then. When I mentioned it, and did you think, oh, goody, or
I wasn't surprised that you mentioned it, given with everything that's going on in the UK. It was a good excuse to watch this one again. I haven't watched it in a very long time. It is a good story. I have a few issues with it, but I think one thing that, especially watching it back, excuse me, I forget that this is Sophie Aldred's first Dalek story. Like, and how she plays it in this entire episode is just as if she's really used to doing this kind of thing with the Doctor, so she just accepts it and she gets on with it, you know. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I forgot. But obviously, love the levitating Dalek
yeah,
going towards Sylvester, that cliffhanger right there. Yeah, but I do have a few issues with it at the same time as well.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to obviously dig into all that and then take the mick, as I said, in usual ways. But Gary, is this one you like to go back to? And did it reveal any more to you when you watched this time?
Well, just my opening thoughts was that, I mean, obviously this is an absolute classic. I mean, for me, I think it's the second best Doctor Who story of the 80s, after Caves of Androzani. At the time, it was the best story in 4 years of the show, again, since Caves of Androzani. Rewatching it now, I mean, it's been 35 years, unbelievably, and it's still just as good as it was back then. It hasn't aged a day. You know, I mean, it really got people excited for Doctor Who again after a long while. I mean, the fans were kind of, didn't know, where the show was going after season 24 was a little bit too light. This story really kind of jump-started the entire McCoy era. And Andrew Cartmel came in. This is the first story that he was script editor for, and it really gave the series a second wind creatively.
I mean, this was season 25, wasn't it? So it was like an anniversary year.
Yeah, this is actually more. They say that Silver Nemesis is the 25th anniversary. This is, for me, the real 25th anniversary.
And do you know what? And do you know?
story.
Well, there's loads of touch. There's the moment in the bed and breakfast where they're about to say Doctor Who. There's loads of touches to back to 63, even though we're in 63.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I'm sure we'll get into all of the, the callbacks and stuff. I just want to say that the introduction of the intrusion countermeasures group, absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's kind of like a proto unit, but just, I mean, every single thing about that group and all of the characters in the countermeasures group, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Gilmore, Rachael, Allison, all those. I had a huge crush on
Captain Gilmore.
Karen Gledhill, who played Allison.
Yeah,
a huge crush on that character. She was just great.
I do,
and they're all great.
It is a good cast and good to see. I mean, there's so many in the threads. I will come back to you. David Harding's come back. He's got things to say. I think you've all got things to say about this story. When I picked this, didn't know what was going to go on in the UK, but it does, as Rachel said, seem quite prescient now. The other thing was I do try and pick stories, apart from The Deadly Assassin, where I thought I could get my still get stuff out of, even though we were all going to eulogize about it. I didn't think I was going to eulogize about Remembrance. I know I'm going to shock people, but McCoy is not my era. And you know, I have issues. Like Rachel said, she's got some issues. I watched it again today, and maybe it is, as I said in the preface, after season 1 and the Christmas specials, I have to say, I thought, wow, gosh, that is good. And you know what? The thing that really got me in 1988, when I'm with my uni mates in this grubby little lounge, as soon as it started, they're taking the mick out of me because it's Doctor Who and I'm supposed to be, you know, a cool blooming uni student. And as soon as you saw the UFO slowly hovering towards, and you heard Kennedy, was it Kennedy? And you heard, that was outstanding. It had an Independence Day feel. That beginning, you know, and you see the shaking of the moon in Independence Day, you see all the space dust moving, and you know there's something. I always call it the Independence Day opening to Doctor Who, and wow, now that's drama, that's tension, that's the way to introduce a whole season.
I mean, the story, I mean, it starts moving like right from, you know, the beginning of the credits.
Well, it's well paced, isn't it? It's a very well paced story, I think, generally.
It's a very well paced story. I completely forgot it opened that way as well, actually. There was quite a few things I forgot about this story.
Yeah, and it does reward. And I have to say, I mentioned Charlie Mento's comments and Over the Overseers. I think Over the Overseer, I know you're just there now. I agree with nearly everything you say. And I thought earlier today I wasn't going to. A few notables, though, just before we really move on into all the little areas. This was, I think, Gary, you were hinting at this. It was Andrew Cartmel. So we start to see the more Machiavellian Doctor now.
Yeah.
The hints of secret past on Gallifrey, you know, the Hand of Omega and all that stuff. It showed the on-screen destruction of the Dalek homeworld Skaro, which I do have issues about that, but we'll come up to it. As Michael was saying, it concludes the Dalek Civil War arc.
Yep.
The first instance of the Dalek levitation.
That was pretty cool at the time. I mean, it was always like the stereotypical thing, like, you know, running up the stairs. The Doctor finally runs up the stairs. The Dalek goes to the bottom, and he moves his eye stalk up, and he starts to go up, and that's the end. That was a brilliant way of ending.
It was great.
I loved it.
You always have to juxtapose that moment that shocked us with Tom Baker in Destiny of the Daleks when he gets up to the top and goes, "If you're the masters of the universe," or whatever it was, how come you can't come after me? And you just put them two together.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course, this is the first instance of seeing the skeleton extermination.
Yes.
Which was a really cool effect, which they kept into New Who, and they kept the sound effect as well. It's like an inverse image, isn't it?
Especially since it wasn't still. You saw it as the soldier was flying backwards through the air.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a superimposed
and they had that sound
skeleton
effect
over a still.
Yeah. I like that, and they kept it in New Who as well.
I always thought that was something, you know, that was potentially implied from the very beginning, that if they were able to do it, that would be what you would actually see. So I like the fact that they eventually did actually make it so that they could do it.
Yeah.
I like that effect.
So, I have to say, this is, we'll have to remind ourselves, this is 1988. We've just been talking about season 1 with Disney's budget. I would have thought, did you think with a bigger budget, gosh, what could you do? Because in 1988, like you said, you had this stuntman flying backwards, turned into a skeleton. The effects in this, I loved the UFO landing, the lot. But I have to say, you know, Mike's in that van, in that yard, and the Daleks, you've got his eye view, and he's just lining him up. And the laser goes through the lorry, just past his head, whacks something behind. This is 88. Now, with the Disney budget, I'm just thinking, surely more of that, please. Just more of that.
Yes,
no.
Yeah, but you got to have the creativity to envision the scenes first before you actually.
Of course, yes. Blame Martin.
This is a classic Who, of course. It had the excellent writing for a lot of the episodes, but it didn't have the budget. Whereas the New Who has the budget, but it doesn't have the excellent writing. So it's kind of like, you know.
Now, just before I move on, I've always got to be fair. I try and keep my own compass with this. You know, I've slagged off various ones like Devil's Cord, but in this one, my last point there, this is the first time that the program almost refers to itself in that bed and breakfast moment.
It was clever.
Don't know.
The fourth wall, almost like the fourth wall.
So, okay, we'll go down the panel and the thread. Is that okay? Is that just a little nod and a wink? I did slag off Devil's Cord for doing
as a one-off. As a one-off from this one, I'm fine with it. It wasn't a regular thing.
Wait, which
one-off thing? The bed and breakfast when it was about to introduce Doctor Who, basically.
Yeah. Oh,
He goes, it's 5:15 and it's now for time for a new program, Doc. And then
Wouldn't it have been dark? I mean, I thought it was the beginning of the day.
Yeah, it would have been November. It would have been dark.
It should have been dark. It was light.
Yeah,
It should have been dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
think
yeah.
it was just a little cutesy.
It's just a wink
I mean,
to
it
the
was all
fans.
right. Yeah,
It's
just-
fine.
It's just is it fair for us to give this a nod and a wink when we do say Devil's Card, you're being naughty? You know, Maestro started playing the piano and it was the Doctor Who theme tune. You know, I went mad about that.
It depends how you sort of look at it, because it's still within the proscenium arch if you think about it.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's not Ace turning towards the camera and actually looking down the camera and going, "Haha, well, it's time for Doctor Who." So
Yeah,
I don't know. It depends how
See
you
you
look
next
at
week
it.
or something. It's
Yes.
just-
we're just assuming that the name of the show that was going to come on was Doctor Who. It could have been Doctor.
Dr. Kildare.
Exactly.
It could have been
There
Dr.
you go.
Kildare. There you go.
yeah.
Mind you, he says it's time travelers. I don't think Dr. Kildare.
Yeah, he
did
just
time
says
travelers.
sci-fi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean Cryer thinks it's. I mean, it's just a question. I haven't got a strong opinion on this, but I was very strong on Devil's Cards. I have to be fair.
Well, for
Yeah,
me
yeah.
personally, I didn't like that bit, but like in the terms of like when you compare it to what we get today, it's minimal. It's so minimal.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
and
think
it's it's subjective too. I guess the only subjective question really is, does it pull you out of the narrative with it
Yeah.
being
No, no,
Not entirely.
I
No.
don't. No, it's just it's
It's
a one-off moment because it's 25th year and it's something to the fans to think, oh, well, I was there when it first started. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah.
right. So we've got a split panel and we've got a split thread on that one. So there we go. That's as it should be. No echo chamber here. And just as we tidy up, it's my last slide, which gives you the details.
Oh, that's quite cool. Look at that.
You've got the ratings, which went really from 5.5, 5.8, 5.1, 5. Now it is on. It is on the midweek nights now. It's up against
Coronation Street.
Yeah, it's harder. I would have thought for the time, against what it's against, that's not bad at that time. It's been limping in the later 80 years, and they've tried to kill it off. As Gary said, the first season of Sylvester, okay.
Well, hey, let's put it in perspective. At least it's not losing 2 million people a week.
Was Michael Grade still in charge at this point?
I think
Jonathan
so,
Powell.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Jonathan Powell is the one who when we did the Doctor Who movie on Sunday, he's the one who said he didn't want Sylvester McCoy in it because he had Sylvester McCoy partly responsible why the series panned, which is ridiculous.
Oh, baloney.
That's absolute rubbish. The whole point of them moving it around in the Michael Grade era was because they didn't want the show to carry on.
Yeah.
And that's why they moved it, and everyone suffered.
We all know Rachel. We all know Rachel. And it was when I was at college and I saw the paper and they axed Doctor Who and all the Doctor Who fans went mad. So they said they then rested it. So they changed their
their
story.
mind, didn't they? They sort of retracted it.
And then basically, let's give Colin Baker this rubbish season and make it very meta by a Trial of a Time Lord. And then we'll change the actor and then we'll do this and then we'll put it against Coronation Street. They were trying to kill it for years, as Rachel was saying there.
Yeah. I get on a soapbox about how they treat it.
But why do they want to kill it? Is it because they didn't understand it? I mean, what's the actual...
Yeah.
Is it simple lack of acknowledgement of understanding of what the whole thing was about?
My argument is BBC executive. We did a stream on this and all of us were on it, weren't we? But the BBC executives, I would argue, never understood this sci-fi nerdy show. They didn't know what to do with it.
I remember you saying that.
They wanted it basically to look like the multi-million-dollar movies that were on the screen at this time, but with no increase in budget. And so they faulted the show for not being what it never could be with the money it was being given.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember a interview with Michael Grade saying how he was comparing a lot of the big screen American movies at the time, and he was saying, "Well, Doctor Who and the budget was terrible." Well, wasn't he responsible for the budget? You know, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He also didn't like Colin. He had.
Well, I like Colin. I think I'm with Rachel. I like Colin. So yeah.
Yeah. Personally.
Wasn't there something to do with relationship issues with Michael Grade's?
Yes.
I remember it wasn't just about the actor. There was more of
No,
a
there
personal
was-
background.
yes.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Liza Goddard as well, and
Yeah.
it was all. It was
That's
all.
right. I
yeah.
forgot
Yeah.
about that. That's it. As you said,
I
that,
did
yeah.
when I looked after Colin Baker that day, and I had to escort him to various places. I was talking to him. I said, "You were on Give Us a Clue the other day." I was looking at an old one. I said, "You were on Give Us a Clue with Lionel Blair, Michael Parkinson, Liza Goddard," and I knew it had been his wife. He said, "I know." He said that was a bit awkward, but
I want to ask Scott. Scott, was this the first Sylvester McCoy story that you saw, or had you seen other McCoy ones before this?
I can remember the 3 first McCoy stories I had was I'm looking at them right now actually, was Time in the Rani, Remembrance, and Survival.
Which is the last episode. Okay.
Yeah, so I got the first, the middle pretty much,
And the
and the
end.
last. And I had no clue why I watched Remembrance first. Then I went back to Time in the Rani, then I went to Survival.
To be honest,
did you-
it's probably better that you started off with Remembrance.
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
with
Good story to
the
start on.
What did
yeah.
you think about Time in the Rani, especially watching it after this one?
Obviously, I didn't know who the Sixth Doctor was. Actually, no, I knew who he was, but like I didn't watch any of his stories. So I'm like, why is he in like in a clown
Oh, okay.
costume? I was like,
Got it.
huh? Then obviously when he was changing over the outfits, I'm like, why is he changing
Gotcha.
to like
Okay.
Yeah.
various? It's like, eh? Then obviously now I've watched every single one. It's like reference, yes,
You know-
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
okay.
yep.
Do you know, I used to hate, I did think I hated a lot more, actually. I used to really, really hate the question mark umbrella of Sylvester's. And yet, in Remembrance, he uses it so well.
Yeah.
I love it. And so, you know, all of a sudden I'm going, do you know what? Am I softening? Or have I just been brutalized over the last couple of years? Because it's great slapstick. It's great physical acting.
It's,
He reminds me of Patrick Troughton, some of the way he moved.
Yeah.
There was a
I would
Troughtonism
agree.
about him.
I agree. Sylvester's very much like that in his acting style anyway, I think.
Yeah.
Like just in general. I've seen him in other things. The most recent being The Hobbit, I think it was. And he was
Right.
very physical in that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's his acting style. But he uses it well.
Yeah, I appreciated it more now. So I was glad that I looked back actually today.
I love that. I mean, and one of the things this story does so well is the usual Doctor Who trope of, you know, coming in and immediately all the other kind of experts, so-called experts, are immediately deferring to him.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
kind of like a
Yeah.
Doctor Who trope, but it works really well. in this.
That's what I mean. I don't want the hi, honey, and landing as we know in Unit and hugging everybody and checking out their physique. I like him just getting in the back of a van
That was
and just, you know,
Yeah.
I was just like, oh yeah. He
Yeah.
does that.
Pamela Salem is
Comes
so
in.
good in this. She
Comes
is so.
in, and he's like saying to her, oh yeah.
The one we talked about, the one kind of almost an in joke that people have different reactions on. The one thing I love, being a huge, colossal Quatermass fan, is that reference to Quatermass that Rachael and Allison know Bernard in the British rocket group. That's a clear reference to Quatermass.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
And that
Yeah.
was just great. I cheered when I first
Well,
heard that.
Gary, before I come to Michael on that one, who's agreeing, I've been talking to Michael Herbert, who, as you know, we've done 2 Malcolm Hulke programs on because he's the biographer of that. And I was talking to him yesterday, and he was suggesting, because he's an expert on the Quatermass stuff, he said, should we do a show, Doctor Who, like the similarities and differences with Quatermass? Now, I've never watched Quatermass, so I was kind of in the dark. So, Thread, Gary, Michael, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I could see some parallels. Why not? Yeah, go for it.
It's not that, I mean, if you think about it, for as much as that's a legendary show, there was originally only 3 serials, and the original serial is only the last 4 episodes of the original serial is missing, but you can read the transcripts.
Right.
And then there's 2 other 6, and that's it. And then there were 3 movies that were adaptations of each of those 3.
Yeah.
And then in the late 70s, there was the John Mills version, which kind of wrapped up the story. So really, there's only 4 Quatermass, stories, but it was the original 3 that had the a
well,
pronounced effect on like 1970s Who.
I mean, I'm always asking the thread, and I'm always asking people what they'd like, what topics they'd like us to do. So if anybody thinks it's worth us doing a show, Quatermass and how it fed into Doctor Who, and we were going to look at that. So Sean Cryer likes it. I dare say Richard Brown says the same. So maybe it's possible. Now, I was going to ask you a question just to kind of liven it up in our review. And the question is, this is my first question, is, if I can get it up on the screen, is
No pressure.
educating RTD. So I just want to ask you, having watched the 4 episodes of this classic, and we've all said some lovely general things so far before we get into nitty gritty, what lessons, if you sat him down, what I mean, I made a list. I have a hell of a list on. I think, as you know, ex-school teacher, I think I would do a double lesson with RTD on Remembrance, and maybe a detention attached, because I think there's a lot he could learn. Rachel, what do you think he could pick up from this that he should be doing now?
Oh my goodness. That's a very good question.
Well, I'll mention a few, and then people all butt in. But I wrote down here, Doctor Who had quiet moments like that. Would Remembrance be the same without the cafe scene? Do you know?
I have one. How to do the messaging without jarring the plot?
Too right. Because I've got 2 slides on the politics in a moment to show you what I spotted. But some people said there's no politics in it, so fair dues. You know, that's all out. But yeah, I look, that cafe scene would never happen now, would it?
Not like that. It wouldn't.
No,
It wouldn't, and it wouldn't fit in. It would just be on at the end, and
The brilliance, though, of that scene, though, it's not, first of all, in terms of the educating RTD aspect, this RTD, would never in a million years be able to do this. I mean, creatively. Because this is a very subtle scene in that the cafe guy, and I can't think of the name of his character.
no, I can't remember either.
But he thinks he's just having an offhand opinion about sugar, and then he goes into things. He has no idea that he's talking metaphorically to somebody who's about to decide the fate of planets. Yeah. You know, so there's that undercurrent going on. So you have that multi-level kind of conversation going on. RTD with his kind of sledgehammer,
it's subtle
ability. Now it's like
subtle.
This is kind of like, you kind of think of like, I think of a watchmaker, with those tools, and you're being so careful and, wording it. RTD would come in with a sledgehammer. That's the difference here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially later on when Ace is later on, or was it before that? I can't remember now. But Ace gets the sign from the window that said, what does it say? No.
Oh,
no
it says,
Oh yeah, I know the sign.
And so she reads it. She looks up, and then
she looks horrified, doesn't she?
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
That's
but
it.
she doesn't like confront the situation. She just puts it down.
It's just
and
addressed. It's just subtle, but it's a poignant moment. Yeah.
And she just leaves. And obviously, that situation would be an age difference in that situation. But she doesn't go like, oh, you say this, you say that. No, just puts it down, just leaves.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to add to that. There was a moment, I think it's the end of episode 2, when she's about to be exterminated, and when you got the reprise in episode 3, he's got that little contraption that kind of befuddles the Daleks.
Yeah,
and then he says to himself, "Oh, it worked." And then later on, at the end of episode 3, when the UFO lands, he says, "I think I've miscalculated." I like the fact, which RTD doesn't do, the Doctor's not a god. He's not Space Jesus. He knows he's fallible. And, twice in this episode that I picked up, he knew he was fallible, and he was amazed at himself in one respect. That's what you want. You want a hero who was fallible. who can
I
make
would
mistakes.
I would be amazed if Russell T Davies somehow got the chance to make this episode in his own vision, completely from scratch.
Please
Yeah.
no.
No, but can
Please
you
no.
imagine just what it would be like? Resurrection of the Daleks 2 or 2025 or something.
Oh.
And can you imagine which direction it would go and how bad it could possibly
Well,
be?
Davros would be walking for a start, and I have to say this is probably the most deformed, I guess you could say, version of Davros that we get
Yeah,
with all the
yes.
wirings over him. He's in this special casing.
Casing
He's
thing, yeah.
not
Yeah.
in a good state,
And we enjoy killing him.
and
So,
it was unapologetic as well.
No, that's it. Goodbye, mate.
Yeah.
You're done. Yeah.
Yeah.
any other thoughts on what lessons RTD could learn from this? I've got a couple more.
Oh,
There's much more jeopardy.
I
in
would
this.
say
I mean,
honestly,
really
I would say stick to coming up with your own kind of
pantomime.
garbage. Don't touch the great old stuff.
And I'll be honest with you, when you watch all these, I mean, today I did watch all 4 episodes together. It's apart from unless I missed something, the plot is explained, and
Yeah.
I don't have to watch Unleashed.
Yeah.
I don't have to read articles like in SFX magazine today. I don't have to read answers to something. It's in the narrative.
There's only one plot hole in this story, one that I've been able to spot. Did Ace in episode 3 ever get her toast in the cafe? That's the only one that I could pick up on.
That'll be in a 12-disc big finish set.
Probably will be.
I want my toast.
So yeah, I don't think, and it has all the quips. I didn't realize this until I read about it, that he always had a book with him with a doctor in the title. That was his little visual joke. So that one's Doctor in the House, but he did it in a lot of them apparently. So
Okay. Yeah.
Fair enough.
but
And you know what was great about the Ace and the Doctor in this is you're already getting the relationship of teacher and student.
yeah,
You know, they're already kind of setting up that dynamic, that she's not just somebody that's traveling with him. They have that kind of like not really apprentice. It's more like she's learning from him.
Isn't that a parallel with the girl in this episode? It's almost like the apprentice to the Daleks, the little schoolgirl that's being controlled by them. I always thought that was quite interesting, the way that she was quite an important character. And you see her at the beginning, and they got this sort of tinkling music like she's at school and everything. And then I like the way that her character, and I think the actor who played the girl for a young age did a good job. I just think it was a different way of doing it when she's siding with the Daleks. It wasn't apparent at the beginning.
How many people, when they first saw that story, thought that person in the chair in the Dalek seat was actually Davros?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did think it was.
They deliberately
Because
did
of the
that with a
voice.
voice, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yes, they
that
distorted the
that
voice.
was a good little. It's not really a MacGuffin. It is a MacGuffin, I suppose. A bit of a red herring, yeah. But it pays off.
The only thing that is weird about that, and again, I don't know if this is a nitpick or if it's a plot hole, but later on when Ratcliffe and his men are digging out the hand of Omega from the grave,
Omega, yeah.
and she's just standing there by the truck watching. He goes over to her and he clearly doesn't know her.
Yeah.
And I'm going to Ratcliffe. It's like, did you never peek around the chair?
That's a good
to see
one. I
who
never
was
thought that.
sitting in the chair, or were you content with just looking at the back of the helmet?
Damn, that
Yeah.
blows my toast plot hole completely out the water.
There she is. There she is. What did you make of it? I mean, I'm going to ask. I always will ask Rachel first on the acting front, and I know you're not going to be critical, and I'm not asking you to be, but I always find that any drama with child actors, it's you've got to be so careful, don't you? What you ask them to do, so that you don't kind of break the. For example, when she is possessed at the end and she's spinning on the floor and everything. That's so demanding for that child actress to do. I would have thought
it's exceptionally demanding. There's quite a few things in this that she does that that probably wouldn't really happen now. Like zapping the characters and essentially offing them and things like that. She probably wouldn't do that now.
Yeah.
But that's demanding for such a young child who. The thing about child actors is that generally, because they're very inexperienced, they don't have a lot of experience to draw on and relate to, so they're not always as believable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's something there that's not always quite meeting, and that's no fault of them. That's just to do with their age. But for her age, she was very good.
Yeah,
She does very well.
Yeah, because you know, you ask a child actress, you're possessed, you spin around, you end up on the floor, then you are yourself again. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, and there's like no connection for her to make there because she's never experienced that before. So she's just got to. My teacher, my former drama teacher, would say, "Schmacked it." So just do it. Just do it. It doesn't matter what it looks like, and we'll tell you if we need it changed. But just do it.
And I dare say it is going to be one of those moments. So SG, the spinning scene you didn't like. Over the Overseer, the girl was very creepy, very Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'm curious. I'm always curious of what I want to ask Scott this because I'm always curious about like first-time viewers or what your opinion was when you first saw this. Did you guess the first time you were watching this that she was the one in the chair and not Davros? Or were you surprised too?
I didn't really know what was actually in the chair because obviously when I first watching Matt Smith, obviously Davros didn't appear until series 9. So I didn't really know who Davros was at the time. So I'm like, who's in that chair? Obviously the voice completely went over my head.
Distorted, yeah.
When the chair turned around, I'm like, oh. She needs a bloody punch. Yeah.
Okay.
So Terry Malloy was your first Davros.
Yeah.
80s, wasn't it? Terry Malloy was 80s Davros, wasn't it?
Not a bad start.
They apparently also in the credits they mixed around the name of Terry Malloy so you wouldn't
did they? They did that with
it was called they made his name like Roy Tromley or something so you wouldn't know that it was.
Oh, I love it. I didn't know that. That's cool.
So he never
Oh, Richard Brown, Brendan in the chat. Great question. Did anyone see Sutek on the TARDIS in this story?
I must have missed it. I wasn't wearing my glasses.
Okay.
Did you see that apparently in SFX magazine out now today? I'm sure me and Rachel will end up doing streams on it. RTD has said something that he doesn't really want us thinking that the Sutek was sat. He's changed his design.
He's not backtracking. You're joking.
He's gone back. What he said is he thinks the explosion in Star Beast released all this lot, and that he hasn't been.
You've got to be kidding me!
Because
after all that.
Brendan, do you think if there had been universal adulation over the Sutek thing, he'd be going, yes, it was all my idea?
Well, I joked with Brendan the other day about watching Logopolis, where Adric is sitting on top of the TARDIS. And there's one scene I thought to myself, I cannot watch Logopolis ever again.
No,
listen,
I mean,
we need to ask Matthew Waterhouse if he knew anything about it. You know,
yes. Was he aware?
Well, no, you know what the thing? They need to redo. They need to redo that scene. And when Adric climbs off, he's covered in dog hair, but he doesn't know where it's from.
Well, they'd have to time travel for that. Make Matthew.
Oh dear.
Maybe they'll just have to edit it in or something.
Well,
Let's not go there.
Let's just let's just do a housekeep. I've had my political radar on today. We can't help it in this country at the moment. The politics is off the scale. But I've had my political radar on this episode because I did say it's one of the best political Doctor Who stories, but I don't mean it's overly done. Did everybody notice stuff like this, for example? Ratcliffe wanting authoritarianism in Britain? He missed it, and the irony was straight away the Dalek comes in and bosses him about. He wanted strong leadership, he said. We've mentioned the slave trade being mentioned in the coffee shop scene, and that lovely hypothesis that the Doctor was just ruminating. Ratcliffe said he was on the wrong side. The UK was on the wrong side in World War II. Basically, he's a fascist, and he went to jail for it. We've mentioned the sign in the window telling you about 1960s multiracial relations, the child exploitation by the Daleks. I think Michael was referencing that. Mike said, remember Mike? I mean, did they make him dishy so that he said something horrible? Protect your own, keep the outsiders out so your people can have a fair chance. I think that's very relevant to roughly what's going on at the moment. Ace discusses the Dalek preference for racial purity. She talks about blobbiness.
Yeah, special blobs, super blobs.
And the domestic sexual politics, because I think Ace quite liked Mike, and Mike really did like Ace. But when she realized he wanted her just to do the cooking and wait around the house like the old days, it doesn't work.
Well, but I mean, a few of those points that you made in that graphic is just a result of the story being set where it was, because that's was just like a norm of the time.
Except, Gary, I appreciate what you're saying. We're not getting a thread on it, but like the domestic one, she pulls a face, doesn't she? It's like you get a modern girl going.
That's a generational difference. That's the whole point of that. That's because it was more the norm in the early 60s, but not by the mid to late 80s. It was a different sort of perspective, which I thought was very well done.
So do you think they did pick an actor like I've got his name here, I'll get it back in a minute, Dursley McClendon, who obviously had a tragically short life, but do you think they picked somebody like that? And I know he's on the box set coming up, isn't he? They've got a nice little documentary on him because he then surprised us with such unattractive lines.
I don't know. I suppose so. I don't know.
Because that's the way to do it. If you had somebody very unattractive, thuggish, but then if
I don't think that getting kind of a more of a, obviously kind of like, to use the term you just used right now, kind of thuggish actor, like harder, more soldierish, would have been necessarily the way to go. But I would have thought maybe if he would have played it a little bit, harder.
He didn't know. He came across as a nice character. As you say, that was the surprise factor about his character in the episode. You didn't see him going in that direction until near the end.
Except, and if I did it another way, then when I did the Malcolm Hulk streams, they talked about Malcolm Hulk. Even with the baddies, he would show you a chink of hope where they weren't all just 100% evil. There was an element of them. Do you think we were getting an element of this with Ben Aronovich? Not everybody, apart from the Daleks and Davros, of course, but not everybody's evil. That you get them slightly more rounded. He had a mam. He was respectful to his mam. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to say.
I mean, I guess maybe what they could have fleshed out, and it's been so many years since I've read the book by Aronovich.
Oh yeah.
But if they would have made it a little bit more, even a couple lines. To address kind of what drew him to Ratcliffe's, organization, what was attractive to him about that? Because he keeps saying, I didn't know it was the Daleks. I didn't know it was the Daleks.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But even a couple lines, where Ace would have said, why would you follow a man like that anyway? And he could have even one or two lines to explain.
Or explanation is what you're saying.
Like you said, like he's a nice guy. Nice young guy,
but he made a mistake. He made a wrong choice somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's actually, look, it's 25 years, obviously, since 63. This was commemorating and doing a Dalek story. And in the original Dalek story, the Thals were pathetically supine and compliant and submissive and peace loving, And of course, they had to kind of rouse them into some sort of fighting force. And 25 years later, you've got some British characters saying that they really are up for the fight, but on the other side, I find it slightly interesting that they've done a kind of arc there with the same Dalek story about purity, that before it was people were being pathetic.
I'm going to ask a silly question, but did the Imperial Daleks, which were a more modernized version, were they time travelers? Is that how they interacted with the original style Daleks? Was there something I'm not aware of? Because it was set during the William Hartnell era, where we didn't see the revised Daleks with the slightly different lamps and the special weapons Dalek, which was actually very cool. And I just wondered whether there was something which changed the timeline compared to the Daleks when they first appeared in 63 to the version that we saw in Resurrection. Is that maybe
I think that was in the book that Davros's Imperial Dalek squadron were from the future.
Okay. I just suddenly thought that. I was just wondering whether there was something which, because it wasn't properly addressed in the episode, at least I don't remember it being addressed. So I was just curious.
But what I will say, I don't know what the panel and the thread thinks, but I'm agreeing with Colin. the issues brought up in Remembrance of the Daleks are very pertinent to 2024 Britain and actually some other countries as well. It's not just Britain. And actually, I prefer how this was written and how it was delivered to make people think, but not antagonize.
Yes, I agree
think
entirely. It was
better.
very well done. Yeah, it was done in a very not in your face, but it was educational, and it was very well done in that respect. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So
I mean, the one. I mean, I guess one point about the kind of politics of it. There's Ratcliffe, who never, looked around the chair to see who was sitting in it all that time.
Yeah.
The one of the things that makes this story stand out among the many things is that the Nazi parallel of the Daleks has always been there since the very first story. I mean, not explicitly, more implicit in terms of, the idea of racial purity. Back in 1963, it was the Daleks wanting to wipe out the Thals, and then later on you have Genesis, which is more the trappings, of, all the officers like Niter and them being dressed like SS officers and etc. But Genesis story itself is more of a Davros story. It's not about the racial purity aspect. This story, though, takes that kind of element, that allegorical element, to the Nazis, which has been implicit basically in the story since 1960. It's explicit for the first time. It's actually about the idea that the Daleks are engaged in this conflict over racial purity. I mean, it's spelled out. It's explicit for the first time, whereas before it's everybody just saying, "Oh yeah, the Daleks are kind of like the Nazis."
Well,
but now it's clear in this one.
Well, what I like is you get the spectrum. So you've got those who want absolute purity, Second World War Germany, that kind of room. And then you get, the window sign, and you can see how the shades, and it's on a spectrum all the way down. And I think it's cleverly done. So if you're thinking, oh, well, we're not like the Nazis, or we're not like that, oh, there's no way Britain's like this. But then you see the little touches. And then I think that's a lovely, interesting way to make people, oh, hold on a minute. Gosh, that happened here as well. And just because, of course, it's the 1988 audience looking back on 63, although the 63 characters are responding in a way. It's playing with two generations, and I like that way of doing timey-wimey.
Yeah.
Now, can I just ask the panel about this? Because I was going to raise this at some point, but Rob Fellows has beaten me to it. Compared to Dot and Bubble, there is no contest in discussing this, but it is worth us always saying this, that the Dot and Bubble ending, which might have been worthy and all the rest of it, it just felt levered in to me. And I'm assuming Rob Fellows is saying in this one, it's just lovely woven into the language and into the characterization. I mean, Scott, I haven't had you on since season 1. How did you find Dot and Bubble's conclusion as compared to this?
Well, obviously, when the episodes were coming out, I watched Friday midnight because obviously I was working Saturday night for all of those weeks. Then I had the next week off. I'm like, couldn't I have all those 8 weeks off? Then I have work all of those other weeks. I'm like, I watched them Friday night. Then obviously in the day I'll rewatch them. Then Sunday I'll rewatch them again. So I know I have them in my head. And I think it was when I was rewatching all of them, and just before Empire of Death, obviously saw ending of Dot and Bubble. Obviously when what's her name, Lindy. Lindy, says, "You're not one of us." I'm like, okay. Ooh, it's a bit like, okay. Then I watched the San Diego Comic-Con panel last night, and they did mention that. I think Russell said, what did he say? Because obviously the Doctor's never been black before. Obviously,
Fugitive Doctor.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember what he said now, but he said like, see how obviously from the Doctor's perspective.
Yeah.
I've to rewatch it again, but I know he does say something about that line
Which is
It
really
does.
confusing because the Doctor's an alien, so he's actually met it through his whole entire tenure on the show,
Yep.
from the very beginning in 1963.
Yes, and the Doctor would be color blind because he's an alien. He has no interest in our human nonsenses, and that's how it should be dealt with. That how stupid are the human race? He's higher than that.
He looks at it from a higher being perspective as an alien, but they forget that in current writing.
Yeah.
Basically.
I turn out
Now, Gary, you're just breaking up. So, yeah.
What
so
about
we're
now?
missing what you're saying.
Can you hear me?
Have another go.
You sound like a Cyberman. Try him again.
What about now?
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was just going to say this is not going to be RTD Bash, but just comparing this story to Dot and Bubble.
Yeah, comparison.
Yeah.
Is that it's clear to me that RTD doesn't have as much respect for the intelligence of his audience in that he feels the need to spell everything out in the most simplistic terms, whereas in this story, the writer and the script editor, know that their viewers are kind of intelligent. They don't need everything
the audience,
mapped out for them, and they can make the connections without being hit over the head with it.
Yeah. I mean that's partly what's happened in our country at the moment, that you've got a lot of people antagonized by language used by a prime minister as well, because they feel as though they've been lectured at rather than included and talked with. And it's one of those. I know some people will be happy, and I'm just reflecting that it's always best to include people in the conversation than talk at them and to label them. And of course, RTD and some of the scripting falls into that camp of labeling people and making it very, exclusive. And so you're in or you're out. And in this one, you could be watching it. You could be sat there as a little racist and sat there and actually enjoying the story. And little things will be poking at you all the way through. Isn't it better to actually educate people slowly and keep them on board than actually make them turn over?
More subtly. I mean, I agree.
I heard people in the village say that when they were watching Starbeast, they turned over at the point about the pronouns. Well, that's no good, is it? If you want to teach them about trans education, then you don't want them turning over. You need to do it more subtly, and this was much better, I think, in that aspect.
I just wonder whether the modern audience, whether there is a way that they can teach things more subtly, because the modern audience perhaps they're more used to it being in your face as a standardization of education, of the way that it's.
I think you're right, Mike. I think you're right. I mean, I'm trying to make the point, but I'm also agreeing with you that I think people like things laid on a trowel nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, that's unfortunate.
Which is a shame.
I mean,
it's a great shame.
I'd like to be able to think that if you raise the bar, people will rise to kind of meet the bar, but everybody's creative instincts is just to lower the bar to meet where people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will always say my bar is when I was 7 watching Genesis of the Daleks. I had to lift my game to understand what the hell was going on, but it was a good story, so I stuck with it. David, who was sat with his son watching this, Doctor Who may have been done on the cheap back then, but this is one story that doesn't look cheap at all. I agree. I mentioned the special effects, the whole thing. Now, we've just got to get one element of comparison out the way. It introduces other scenes. It's Gary's moment. Here we go.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's important that
Can I just say that I have lost sleep. I have lost sleep over the fact that from the very first time that Rachael characterized this segment as something that I love, that immediately took hold and now seems to be like gospel. And I don't know how that happened.
Carved in stone.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah,
but
I was trying to accommodate okay, and it's Rachael backfired on everyone.
was Rachael projecting what she thinks?
I'll live with it, because I guess it's kind of, you know, it is what it is now.
Rachel's deflecting. It's known as gaslighting because remember, because Rachel's very aware that she's on a sticky wicket about Tom Baker. So of course, you know,
Yes.
I had a few people writing to me today still about Tom Baker and one of my panelists. So yes,
Is this something I missed? What is this? Or is this
I
something you
threw
want
a
to talk about?
spanner into the
loves
works.
Tom Baker. He's her top doctor.
Oh, right. Okay.
No, he's not.
Well, I was wondering as you said that. I thought that's not the way it sounded. But okay.
Yeah, let's just remind people that somebody on this panel, I won't say who, said that Tom Baker is the least liked doctor.
Yeah.
I can't think who that is.
Yeah, you said there was there was no acting or anything going on.
That's right. Send your cards and letters to Chat About It. Don't shout about it.
and then she'll do a stream when she's done a video essay explaining herself again.
Yeah,
it'll be a 10-part series.
Yeah,
having to explain why.
Yeah, that's a difficult position.
It's nothing to do with that acting.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Okay.
other reasons.
So you're in a hole now, are you, Rachel? Are you trying to dig your way out? Are you?
Yeah, I'm digging my way out.
How far down are you? That's a problem.
Well,
I'm curious, Scott.
one of
Scott,
my
who's your favorite doctor?
Is Genesis. So there you go.
Favorite doctor? Oh, you're being on spotted now. So my first one was Shooty. No, Taylor. No, the first one was Matt with the new one. So, I grew up with him. So I do get on with him.
All right.
Then
just curious.
It's now
because they always say it's the one that you first was introduced to. Really, they always say.
I think it is. I think it is.
I don't because I've met him. Shooty. I do like his stories quite a lot.
Oh, really?
It's like sometimes be like hit and miss.
Scott, before we move on to actually talking about Shooty's doctor in this segment, which Gary is steering us off, so maybe there is truth in what Rachel
No, I was not. I was curious because I didn't really know a lot about Scott's experience with the show, and so I was just curious about things like what's his favorite
You've obviously met Shooty, so go on, tell us for a moment, Scott. You were on. It was for season 2. Everybody, it was one of our streams ages ago when in one of our news items you had photographs of when they're doing Miami. And Verado Sethu's in it, isn't she? And he's running with her, and it's that explosion or something's meant to have happened at the cinema. And then obviously on that day, you got to talk to Shooty, and I'm sure he was a lovely bloke. What did he say to you?
Obviously, I went on the Wednesday and Thursday. I was there on Wednesday. I was there from 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, I was like, why am I up at this time? Till like 5 o'clock because I'd work. So I'm like, why do I have to have work? So Thursday, day off, went to Leicester, 10 o'clock in the morning, straight again. Just standing there. I'm like, can I just go back to sleep now? So obviously, some other people came over. Obviously, I knew some of them. So I started talking to them. Then after Shooty arrived, all waving. Then I think they were doing, like, what they're going to do, obviously, go set, look up, and just like little rehearsals. I was like, oh, please say he's going to come over. Please say he's going to come over. So, we had to move back because we were on the main road at that time. Don't know why.
Paul Roach is asking, was he crying?
I didn't see any crying. There could have been some inside crying, but I didn't see any outside crying at the time. So obviously, I think he came to us around 6:30, 7:45, around that time. So obviously, I'm talking to someone on my left. Saw some security guys come. I was like, oh, they're probably going to say he's not coming. I was like, oh no. So obviously, I had my 60th anniversary DVD on me. I was like, please, I want to sign up. I just want to sign, then I'll go. So obviously, I looked over. I'm like, oh, well, Shooty there, hello. So obviously, I had to wait a bit for him to come down, and obviously, words describing him is unwordable.
You see, I'd expect he's like they all are. They are a bit like their persona in the program because that's partly why they're picked.
So
they always are.
Shooty, his personality is pretty much the Doctor,
exuberant.
Eric from Sex Education,
yeah,
and probably Ken, one of the Kens from Barbie, all into one. That is literally his personality. I'm like, how are you this energetic and like 6 at night after all of this filming. I'm like, good on you, mate. I've been standing there for like 6 hours and tired.
I think a lot of people would think it's a hell of a gig. It's a hell of a program to be fronting. I'd be on a cloud nine. I know the hours can be hard sometimes. Yeah. But anyway, what would Shooty's Doctor do here? Now, he's got the Nitro 9 off Ace. The Dalek is tiptoeing down one side. Now, this is quite a hairy situation for the Doctor. He's fronting it. He's left everyone else behind. He's got explosives in his hand. And as you know, they're volatile. And she always has different timings and everything. What would the Shooty Doctor do in this scenario?
I've just thought here actually. So where McCoy's standing there, obviously Shooty has the Nitro 9. He literally crawls around the Dalek, puts Nitro 9 obviously either side of the back, taps on his head or something, then literally crawls or legs it back to the corner.
Okay.
I just thought of that scene right now. I was like, oh, that's a good scene actually.
Okay.
I honestly couldn't see the Shooty Doctor doing anything this brave, but I not so far. Season 1, am I wrong? Have I missed anything? I can imagine him asking somebody else to do something. Like, Ace, will you go and do it? Like,
Mel, I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, you could call it female emancipation.
I don't know that he would have used the Nitro 9 to distract the Dalek. I think he might have just kind of jumped out and maybe did a dance number.
Well, yeah. Well, Melanie agrees with you. He will twerk to his right, then throw the Nitro 9, and then twerk back. He's got the movement, Melanie. I agree. Colin Archer, you've peaked early. You can't say cry again for any of my other scenarios. So you've peaked early.
I can see
cry.
The screaming, the Shooty's Doctor screaming at the Dalek, and the Dalek's head just implodes.
Yeah, well, yeah. You see, Rachel's got in there. Remember the twerks. Here we go.
And a lot of this is just born. A lot of this is just borne out by the fact that the only action sequence that he was given in 9 episodes was running across a roof.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know what? He does it well.
He did a very good run across the roof. No other Doctor has run across the roof in that way. Yeah, he was the king of the run.
Now, I think Archer Colin is you're going to use up all your explanations on the first one. Call her babe. Yeah. Okay, let's do the next one then. So we're in the coffee shop. This is the big moment. This is the very serious. I mean, it's a lovely moment in the actual show, isn't it? He thinks it's not labored, as we've already said. I like the fact that it is classic sci-fi as well. He ponders what if. That's exactly what sci-fi should do, but it raises a serious issue. And obviously, the Doctor's an alien, so he shouldn't be aware that he looks white. But you've got a white man there talking to a black man. Is that problematic?
Yeah.
This. Now, if it was the Shooty Doctor, although the 15th Doctor shouldn't be aware of his skin color, that would change the dynamic.
That's interesting. I find that.
Yeah,
very
I don't know how
idea.
this would work. I honestly don't know how this.
I think he would have a similar conversation, but call the other guy Honey.
No,
I don't know. I could just see. It's interesting, as you say, the 15th Doctor, the color shouldn't be an issue, but the other character would see Shooty's Doctor perhaps differently because he looks of a different color and he might interact in a different way. I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Well, the trouble is, it kind of raises in this sensitive world, which it shouldn't be really. It raises an awkwardness that I wouldn't want the Doctor to have. The Doctor should be above this, but the Doctor would be sank into the fact that he's a certain skin color, I think. And why? By the way, I thought that cafe owner was quite open to Sylvester's Doctor, and
he was fine.
I mean, this never. I mean, in all the times I've seen this story, I never thought this was a dynamic between a black character talking to a white character, and that made it different.
There was. It was just two people.
It was all
talking.
about the dialogue and the connection.
Yeah, I agree entirely.
Yeah. And this time, Archer Colin, you might be right, because I did think, I mean, I don't just do these as a joke. I think, well, what would be the difference now? Now, Shooty's Doctor is more emotional, and whether the skin color comes into it or not, but I think they'd have to play the fact that they were similar. Shooty's Doctor might get quite emotional in empathy.
Yeah, I could see him being more emotional in his response,
like a kindred spirit. I think it'd have to do something like that, even though the Doctor's got no past in the slave trade or anything. You see, it's a shame that Doctor Who can't deal with these topics without getting bogged down into, oh God, this is a bit tricky. But the dialogue's interesting, isn't it? I showed some of it, but the interesting is the cafe owner, it's the yellow bit. And remember, this is the black man represented in 1963, but shown in 1988.
Yeah.
Life's like that. Best thing is just to get on with it. That dialogue would not happen now.
No.
Why wouldn't it happen now?
I think the dialogue now would be more about, we stand up, BLM, I'm sorry, but this was intolerable and we shouldn't allow this to happen. I think it would
But
be
that line, actually, if you think about it, that line that was said by the cafe owner thinking it's just part of a casual conversation, it's so casual. He can say, best thing just to get on with it, which you could say in about 100 different circumstances, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about that line, life's like that, best thing is to just get on with it, and apply it to what the doctor is considering and what the doctor's talking about, which is, should I keep going on my plan, which is going to result in the genocide of the Daleks and the destruction of Skaro? That answer applied in that context is more like, no, you need to keep on with what you're doing. You need to, keep on track, just get on with it. Don't get lost in, the what should I do? Just get on with it. So that casual answer, that's what's so great about this scene, that casual answer that's given by a cafe owner who thinks it's about something entirely different is the determinant of the fate of a planet. And I thought that's
very clever.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant writing.
And I hadn't actually seen it until you said that, but that actually makes a lot of sense in that analysis. Yeah.
It also teaches another version of looking at things. It's not that you put up and shut up. There's a resilience to just you get on. And I know it wouldn't be read like that now. That you can't have a black character saying that about what happened to black people. I know, but I just think it would be laboured then as something else. When, it's one of those. But what I also liked is where this conversation started. If you look at, if I could control people's taste buds, that's a very interesting way I'm looking at the slave trade. It's not going at it hammer and tongs. It's just, if I could change people's tastes, and it's an interesting hypothesis. That's exactly what sci-fi should do.
Yeah.
Would that? All that about the ripples and like a boulder and lovely.
Lovely. Yeah. Lovely dialogue. Brilliant.
Brilliant scene. So he's the one. This is the one where he might have healed her in some strange hocus pocus way, but it was cut. But this is episode 3. He grabs her leg, he dismisses everybody else, and he has this moment with her, which is very patrician, very caring. Tells her, ticks her off. You shouldn't be getting into trouble. I did tell you not to. But this is when I actually, this time, and I've seen it many times before, I thought, do you know what? Their chemistry is really good. I believe it. Yeah. And yes, it is a doctor, and being the senior one, kind of ticking her off, but nicely. I thought that just worked authentically.
Yeah.
I agree entirely, yeah. They had a very good chemistry between them both.
So, unfortunately, my question is, what would the 15th Doctor do if that was Ruby Sunday?
Oh, they would use regeneration energy because they just throw it around like anything.
They would do that. They would do regeneration,
They do regeneration.
I've got a spare hand here.
It would be like River in the Hitler episode where she gives it all to him. Yeah.
I actually think he'd give her a ticking off. And he would treat the wound pretty much like it plays out here, but the regeneration energy would be the thing that really heals it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
over the
not much difference, just that.
Shooty would never tell his companion off. It would always be the other way around. Well, yes, Mel did.
Mel did.
Yeah. So let's have a look. This is the classic rice pudding moment.
Unlimited rice pudding. Sorry.
Oh God, yes, he lets rip on Davros, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He tells him off. Davros knows at that point that he might die and that Skaro is going to be demolished. And the Doctor is not giving him any quarter. I have to say, the Sylvester Doctor here is quite harsh if you look at it like that, and quite cold. I think of Space Babies at the end when he thought, no, I can't do this. I should save this species. He never has a moment about the Daleks in this way. Unlike in Genesis, when he saw reasons that they should survive because they make everybody else unite against them. What do you reckon the Shooty Doctor would do when he holds all the cards? There's going to be a genocide of Skaro, and Davros is apparently pleading for pity. I think he might cry.
Well, wow.
He might cry if, as the fact that the Daleks are about to be destroyed, and when but
I mean, if they were close in proximity, I would say that he'd throw a rope around Davros's little capsule and drag him through the time vortex.
I'm wondering if he would be a bit like the Dot and Bubble at the end. Does he shout and spit and just say, "I've got to do this"?
I keep seeing that scene now in these scenarios. It's because it was so over the top. I could see him doing it again and again. And
It's kind of
scene, I can see that. Yeah.
Here's Brendan. I mean this sincerely. So the hard thing about these questions and the scenes that you're putting up is for every single time when you put up a scene, I mentally kind of like go through all the episodes and trying to see if there's something that's remotely analogous that Shooty did that's comparable to any of these situations. And there never is, which is why it's hard to come up with.
It's just
kind of like a what would Shooty do answer.
I need season 2 to give me more to go on. But the truth is, I'll go on what's there at the moment. Melanie Weston says, of course, the Doctor's not messing about. He just shows his dark side here. Shooty would never have done this plan as he's too chicken. So far, am I right? In the 8 episodes, he did kill the Call Blinkin, but that was almost by accident. But
wait, who? The Goblin. Yeah.
He did apparently kill Sutek, and he death equals death means life, and I'm the one who's going to bring death to you. He actually looked as though he enjoyed doing it there. So I have to say, I'll pull back a bit. When he had no pity on Davros here and was quite harsh with him, I suppose, is there an Empire of Death moment to it? Maybe.
Well, you know what? This scene, to go back to the cafe scene, this scene is the Doctor getting on with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what the cafe owner said. You know what? Life's like that. Just get on with it. This is the Doctor now just deciding to get on with it.
There is one thing that Brendan's already said, actually, and I have to agree about this in Shooty's defense, is that we really still haven't seen enough of his Doctor. I mean, we could obviously speculate after the season 1, season whatever it is, season 14. But it's kind of like, it could be that if we were doing this show after seasons 2 have been released, we might have a different it might be better, it might be just the same, but in Shooty's defense, because don't forget, he was missing in quite a few of the episodes this season anyway, so it's quite hard to get a full kind of idea exactly how he's going to react. You know what I mean?
Absolutely agree.
So we're almost at the finish of this little item. The moment when he approaches again, I don't see these as the same. The Dalek is now on its own. He outlines to the Dalek, you've lost your home world, you've lost Davros, and here you are. And it kind of commits suicide, doesn't it? Really? Yeah, but it's an existential moment.
Yeah, he just can't cope with it, and it just self-destructs.
Well, yeah, he talks him to death.
Yeah.
No, he really does, doesn't he?
He does.
He convinces him to.
By logic, yeah. But I have to say, I can't see the Doctor so far, with all my caveats, like Michael's heard, of what I've seen so far. I go back. Dot and Bubble is shockingly the one I always go to. Those were horrible supremists, white supremacists. And what did he do? He offered them a planet. Surely he would have said to that Dalek, if it was Shooty's Doctor, I'll find you a planet that's empty and you can live there. Do you know what I mean? It
might have been a very similar reaction to Dot and Bubble then. It might have been at the end of it. It might have been.
Yeah.
He would kind of like, he would be calm and collected, and the Dalek said, no, I do not want anything to do with it.
That was.
And then he loses it. The Doctor loses it. I could see that as a sort of repetition of that episode in this episode, in based on what we've seen of Shooting
So-
Doctor so far.
So if anybody in the thread or even on the panel is wondering why will I do this item, it's not because I want to just say the predictable same things. You can hear some of my thinking now, which is I'm trying to apply the shooty rules in practice.
Yeah.
And then we can all make a decision. Would you prefer this version, this Doctor? Because I think this really made the Sylvester Doctor, because he was hard.
It was this new sort of defining moment at this point after the previous season where it was a mixed bag. When they came back with season 25, this was like, okay, Sylvester is now the Doctor and he's in his role and we're going to do some good stuff
Yeah,
with him.
he needed to go in this direction. His Doctor works much better like this.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And he's walking here. He's up for it, isn't he? I mean, you know, it's,
No messing with him in this episode.
yeah. No indecision.
No,
No paralysis of thought as in the
that's it.
Shooting
He was
Doctor.
committed to it and he wasn't going to back down.
And there's no crying, by the way. So this is my last one. When he said ashes to ashes, dust to dust, when that's the remainder of the Black Dalek, he just kind of says it. Look at the sneer on his face, and then he gets on with
It's
the
just
light.
hate. It's just like, you're gone.
Yeah. There's no tears. There's no kind of, I'm sorry I had to do this. There's nothing.
I have a quick question, and
Yeah.
tell me if I'm wrong, because when I was rewatching this again last night, this is the first time this jumped out at me. If the Imperial Daleks were the ones that were altered with bionics, right? Because when he and Rachael and Alistair are looking into the one, they go, look, this one's been modified with bits and bobs and bionics, right? After, you know, the Imperial Daleks chasing Ace get blown up, right? So if the Imperial Daleks were the ones that were altered by Davros with all the bionics and all this, and as Ace said, the renegade ones are just the little proto ones with blobs and stuff. Wouldn't the and it's a story about racial purity, wouldn't the ones that were are artificially modified, wouldn't they be the renegades? Because they've been modified from what the original Daleks were?
Yeah, because the other ones, the Renegades, it's confusing. The
But the
Renegades, are more the
Renegades,
normal
the
ones, the
ones that were
standardized
called-
ones.
Yeah, the pure, and
And the
quote,
Imperial
unquote,
ones are the ones
Daleks.
which are more of a renegade because they've been artificially changed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a weird. The name was a bit odd. It should have been the other way around. I don't know why they did it that way, but I can see your point.
Paul Richards raises this one. McCoy said he was never a serious heavyweight actor, but he became more serious later on. Well, let me just say, personally speaking, he wasn't my Doctor because of my age, partly. But the other thing is, I thought this was really good for him. And I will always say I loved him in Power of the Doctor. And I would love him as the Doctor now because he's just got so much more gravitas. He just seems to be... He's the Doctor now, big time.
Yes.
But this was good, really good.
Even though they did misspell I am Foreman on the gate.
Oh, I remember that. I was
Yes.
annoyed about that. Was it an E
Yeah.
or something? Or
It's
something?
like the story that is just
Where
beyond
was the
brilliant.
E?
It's like, come on.
I remember
people.
that. I was annoyed about that. Even that
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
ago, I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, good call. Because I must admit, I was thinking, why have you done it? It's so obvious. And I agree earlier on, I think it was Over the Overseer said, I hope it was Over the Overseer, we said, the attack of the Cybermen Totter's Yard was badly done. But this was really well done, except for that one spelling. And what's an
It's
oversight?
just annoying, isn't it? It's just irritating that they did that. Yeah.
So, but we
Can we
went
have to? Can we remark about the? Are you going to at some point, Brendan, like in one of your clips, mention the last scene, because we need to talk about the final scene and
the
how good it
funeral.
is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll do the denouement
Okay.
and everything. I
Okay.
just wanted to throw in. So now we're going to be fast and loose. So I'll follow you mostly. But I just thought, well, we did reference Coal Hill School. We were back there. We saw the French Revolution book in the classroom, didn't we? Do you like all those touches? Do you like that kind of thing happening?
Yeah, I think it's an anchor for the show because that's how it
Yeah.
started. I don't think. I mean, they don't do it too often.
Yeah.
I mean, the 12th Doctor went back. I think it was he the caretaker at Coal Hill as well.
Yes. Yes.
So it does come back from time to time, and I kind of like that. Why not?
So
How great would it have been to have the caretaker, Michael Sheard, not the caretaker. He was what was his title? He was what do you call the head of the school? The
Oh, he was.
headmaster,
Yeah.
headmaster.
Okay. Right.
To make some kind of offhand comment about no, and we're we're still missing the two teachers. Just an offhand comment.
Yeah.
Because at this point, this is after they've left, but before they come back in 1965.
Oh, that's true.
Some
they hadn't got back yet.
offhand comment, like, well, not flippant, but something like, I imagine something like
They're missing a
where
few
he
months
says
or
something like, well,
yeah.
are you here about the science teacher opening or something like that, which would indicate that, you know what I mean? Just like a subtle nod that wouldn't mean anything to new viewers, but longtime viewers would know exactly what they're referring to.
Although I must admit, we had Spyrodon mentioned, we had the Zygons mentioned. There was lovely little reference, and I get your point, but we had some lovely references. So this is the moment that lots of Doctor Who fans talk about, and I actually think it's more. I think it's more Marmite to me, and maybe some. This is the moment for Ace. This is the moment that we all love, I'm sure. The stunt, the smashing through the glass, the beating up the Dalek with the Hand of Omega power and all the rest of it. I mean, I loved the stunt, and I loved any action in Doctor Who like this. I didn't like the Hand of Omega, and I didn't like the baseball bat. That bit. And actually, just like in Dalek, I don't want the Daleks beaten up too easily. Now, I know this is Hand of Omega with a cartoon white lines all around it and a silly slapstick sound. I'm not... Look, I know everybody tends to talk about this moment, and I know why, but I also have reservations about it. What do you all think?
I don't mind it, actually. It's a bit daft, but
it is. I don't have a major opinion on it either.
Yeah.
I have more opinion about the Daleks themselves.
Well, you come on, Rachel, because you did start today by saying you'd like this story, but go on, throw me one of your buts.
But okay, the Dalek voices in this,
the Smurfs.
They sound they're not consistent with that past Dalek voices, and they're very high. I don't know what it is. This was the one that Nick Briggs redubbed, right? Have I got that correct?
Oh, for the box set, is he going to do?
I don't know. Wasn't there one that he redubbed for?
Oh, he did
the voices were wrong.
He did the Daleks one again. The Daleks in
You're
color.
talking about the colorized Daleks.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe
it wasn't this one.
No, this one, the voices are very high. They're very tinny. There's no consistency behind the voices. They don't sound like past Daleks. I know they're supposed to be sort of like two factions and perhaps a bit more mutated, but they just didn't sound. They just don't sound right to me, and never have.
I hadn't noticed that, actually. I've never noticed that compared to...
Yeah, if they sounded better in their mothership, I felt. But I agree. I thought, especially these light Daleks sounds Smurf-like. We all knew this. Like with Day of the Daleks, they had a funny voice as well. You'd waited for them to come back. And I'm definitely a Genesis of the Daleks voice or Planet of the Daleks voice. Yeah. That's where I want them to be. But and like just sticking with the Daleks, it's something else that I have an issue with is the fact that Davros is introduced so late. Like the reveal of Davros, excuse me, let me correct myself. I feel like that could have been done a bit earlier. I am a Terry Malloy Davros girl.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
He's my favorite.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wish that had been a reveal that happened a bit earlier.
Yeah.
And also the blowing up of Skaro. I never liked that. I can't put it just doesn't seem very Doctor-like to me.
No, if in the Cave Monsters, he's very bothered about the Silurians. And in Genesis of the Daleks, the very same alien is bothered about putting two wires together.
Yeah.
But then he killed Solon with cyanide gas in the brain of Morbius.
Yes, I know. And the acid bath. And I know. There he is. Rachel, I do agree with you on this one. Was this a Dalek story or a Davros story? I suppose that's what the decision they had to make.
This one?
So
no, as in, I mean, the producers will have made a decision.
I understand what you mean.
Because if you have Davros in it, he takes over, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah, I was going to say it would have really shifted the focus of the story.
But I agree, and I know Rachel loves her Big Finish, and I don't listen to much Big Finish, but I love the Davros ones.
Yes.
You know,
So you're suggesting that if he came in by episode 2, maybe this episode might have been even better remembered, or do you think that it's a weird one that he was so late in the story?
Yeah, and I think really the reason why he is so late in the story is because the girl is supposed to be who you think is actually Davros. I think they could have got away with revealing that a bit earlier, you know. But that, you know, I mean, it's like small things because, you know, I guess it is really a Dalek story.
Yeah, this kind of makes. I've always thought that that makes the picture that you just had up, Brendan. It kind of makes it look like Davros is sitting in a bidet.
Yeah, I know it's not brilliant, is it? This is not my favorite Davros look either. So I take everything Rachel's saying, and I agree really. Although it makes it a good Dalek story because he's not in it. But I love.
You don't get a shot like that in the episode, though. That sort of distance, he's more close up, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think there was a shot quite
because you can see all the black gook. Out of his mouth.
Yeah.
I also wondered about the Emperor Dalek. I thought I'd seen photographs and I thought the Emperor Dalek doesn't look like that. He does look a bit like that in the TV comic, the golden.
The big round head one.
The TV,
yeah, I know what I mean.
But not the TV one. That was, it's like he's in a little jacuzzi and he just suddenly appears. You know, times. You know,
that's you know what? That's Davros's version of a Segway.
Yes. I'm going to do a mini series with just me and Gary, where all his little kind of little quirks that he loves. I loved. Can I just say, you know, I'm a Doctor Who classic fan. I know special effects can be a bit and all the rest of it, but when we came to the mothership, there was something about the music, this kind of really clinical. Wow, I loved this whole vibe. I thought, whoa, God, Doctor Who, this is cool. I honestly, I don't know about you, but it's a simple a set, but I thought it was beautiful, really beautiful.
Yeah, I like the displays.
Yeah, and it even is checking on the British weather. Wow, it could do. I mean, look at that. It's raining in Britain again.
It's better than Michael Fish. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, there's a hurricane that's going to. Oh, oops.
Don't worry, there isn't.
Still doing it.
Sorry?
What's that?
I said, is Michael Fish still doing it?
No, I don't think so.
I got to admit, I do laugh when you know when the Hand of Omega starts coming back, you know, and it'll be here in 6, 5, 4, and then it's like Emperor off the bridge, and Davros is out, and in 5 seconds he's already made it out. It's like, come on.
I know, and it's interesting what David Harding's saying here, because this is the point. We love Davros, and we don't want him tampered with. I'll keep repeating that. But you lose something. I mean, I do love I'm going to say it again. I love the Planet of the Daleks, the Death of the Daleks. You know, we all have our Dalek favorites, but Davros changes the dynamic. And I think you either have a Davros story and the Daleks are just supplementary, or you just have a Dalek story. And wasn't the Dalek story with Rob Sheeman and Eccleston much better for not having Davros in it?
Yeah, yes. It was one-on-one. It worked very, very well.
Oh,
yeah,
every story, starting with Genesis up to what was the Dalek story before this one?
Oh, Revelation, was it?
Revelation. Yeah. Every Dalek story from Genesis through Revelation was a Davros story.
Yeah.
That's why this is so great, is because now the story is actually about the Daleks again.
Yeah. And we've mentioned him. I mean, I'm going to get to him now because our lovely friend, the Special Weapons Dalek.
I love the Special Weapons Dalek.
I mean, as you know, I think we said it in a stream recently. Why wasn't the whole Dalek army the Special Weapons Dalek? I mean, it makes no sense.
That would have been good. I mean, he never spoke either. He only spoke in the New Who. I think he lights up and everything. But it would have been great if he said something in this episode. Actually,
I love his attitude. He couldn't give a toss about getting washed.
And I bet he had a deep voice as well.
Yeah,
like the other Daleks.
Yeah, he's the
Scott. What did you think about the Special Weapons Dalek?
I kind of liked it because it's like. It feels like the boss on the Davros. Obviously, it looks higher up than the White Dalek, so it like feels like it's the boss of those Daleks. So it's like just takes control of those Daleks are like, you do what I do, kill them, kill them, kill them.
Yeah.
Mostly I do the killing. You just stand there. Great.
It's a very military type of
Yeah.
Dalek,
Yeah,
isn't it?
he's
It's like a
tank.
tank.
I like the
tank
oil.
Dalek.
Yeah.
I like the oil sort of like coming down on the
Yes.
roundels. It's
That's
all
the one
dirty and
thing
grimy, and I love that.
That is the one thing I can't unsee, because you look at all the Imperial Daleks, you could eat off them. There's not a speck of
not a
dust
speck,
in
nothing.
any one of those Imperial Daleks, and this thing is leaking oil out of every orifice.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the deal that you couldn't like you know, I mean, yeah, it
Wasn't he
looks
the-
great and it's grimy and it's down to earth and it's kick ass and everything, but still,
Isn't he
it's
like the?
what is the
I
deal
always
with
thought
all
he
the
was like the
leaking oil?
emo goth Dalek. You know, he's the one you don't mess with. You know, he has the tattoos and everything, and the
Yeah.
piercings.
The
and
Terminator.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
the Terminator Dalek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's Judge Dredd. He's all of these, isn't he? He's just, and of course, I think that effect I'm showing you there is from the box set that's coming out soon, the Blu-ray, and they've jazzed it up even more, haven't they? Oh God, yes. I mean, as we know,
Well, there's that shot of the whole Dalek fleet up in space that was in the trailer.
Yeah.
But to Rachel's point about the Scarrow, you know that they're going to redo that explosion of Scarrow for this new
yeah,
one.
of course
They're
they'll do that.
absolutely going to
They'll make it
redo
massive,
that.
like huge thing.
I rarely watch updated effects. I probably won't watch it, but
yeah.
they will. Yeah.
What do you reckon then? By the way, I mean, we're trying to discover all angles, and please, like I said, free reign panel and thread on this one. I'm not going to lead it regarding topics. Over the Overseer, if you look at the bolts and rivets to the special weapons Dalek, it clearly inspired the Bronze Dalek. I never thought of that, but I know what you mean.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. There's a link. That's a very good point.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So let's go to Michael. Michael, what a highlight or something you'd like to focus us on that I've maybe not mentioned, or part of an episode, or something that really we must mention in our review?
I just sort of following on from the special weapons Dalek, which was very, very good. I like the idea that it's the episode. What I liked, I think, the best was that it was almost going back into itself, into the beginning of the Daleks on Doctor Who, going back to 1963 from a 1980s perspective. I don't think Doctor Who had done that before. And I think that the way that they did it, and they, as we've already discussed, embraced a lot of the continuity and little winks and nods. I think that to me is one of the highlights of the episode and made it quite unique.
What always sticks in my mind about this episode is when the Doctor's leaving with the casket from the Undertakers, and the Undertaker's on the phone, and suddenly just looks, and he just passes out.
Yeah.
I laugh.
And also Michael Sheard is in it, and Michael Sheard has been in so many episodes over the years, and in shows like Grange Hill, he's been in Star Wars and all sorts of things, and Alvida Semper, and it's just great to see him back in another role. I think he was a great actor, and
I think we said earlier, we didn't say it, but it was said in the thread that this was his last time in Doctor Who.
Yes, it was his last time. Yeah, and he was a fantastic actor.
And yes, he's been great servant to Doctor Who, actually, and in Sci-Fi, as you've just said.
Yes, he has.
Now, Paul Richards has mentioned the cliffhangers. Yes, if you're doing a review, I did mention earlier cheekily that I thought the cliffhangers were the first one's great. Episode 1, the stairs we've mentioned.
But
I do find that the one where the 3 Daleks are going to they're going to get
they talk Ace to death. They just talk her to death. We're going to exterminate you. Yeah, we are going to exterminate you.
Yeah,
we are going to exterminate you, and it just goes on and on and on, and then you get the outro. It's like, oh, come on, just shoot her or just bugger off. You know what I mean? Just do something. You know what I mean?
Well, I must admit, I was gobsmacked. Episode 3, the spaceship landing.
Yeah.
And there's one problem with the ship, though. The ship is like an anti-TARDIS, right? It's smaller on the outside. When you go into the ship, right, there's a Dalek in there. They're all there. The ship is quite small in the playground from an exterior perspective.
And remember, they've got the emo Dalek in there, special weapons Dalek as well, and he's got elbow room. He's going to.
Yeah, they're all coming out. They all come out, and there's about how many? Well, 6, 7 come out of the tiny shuttle, and you've got one in there already, and it's quite small. It's all right. Obviously, it's not the show's fault. It's obviously their limit. I mean, the ship looks great from the exterior scenes, but it's just that there was quite a tight squeeze for all those Daleks.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Daleks don't fart, so they could be quite squashed. Maybe that's
The
anyway.
thing about the episode 3
Yeah.
cliffhanger is that it seems to me that it, just like the cliffhanger for episode 2, as you've been remarking on, there's too long of a lead up to it. But the thing with
That's the
episode 3 is cliffhangers should cut off at the height
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
emotional action.
Yeah.
So now the shuttle descends, lands, and then the Doctor has time basically to make a commentary on what's going on, which is, I think I've made a mistake. So at that point, that's almost the kind of punctuation to the whole scene, not the peak of the scene. How the cliffhanger should have ended is with the shuttle landing and maybe one of them shouting, like Rachael or Allison, going, well, like, you know, what do we do now or something? And the Doctor looking worried, something like that, to where the action of the scene was still ongoing. You know what I mean? Where the shuttle is actually not where it's already landed. The Doctor has time to comment on it. But it just seems like that's one of those cliffhangers that should have ended maybe about 15 seconds sooner than it does.
And I think that's one of the main criticisms I've had. It's a good story, and I but I think just with an edit, just make the one with Ace, make that shorter. The one we've just said about episode 3, and these would be really, because that's the other one I didn't mention in my lessons to RTD, that really cliffhangers were the bedrock of each episode, because you were building a tension, and if you just edit them well, the tension peaks, and then you want next week or next Saturday. You know, he's missing. I really do. I'm going to say it forever. You know, I've just finished watching House of the Dragon. They kind of have cliffhangers. Why is he anti cliffhangers? I just don't get it.
I don't know. Is it because the episodes are standalone themselves rather than being in arcs?
But if you think of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, they still have a kind of peak at the end, which makes you think, oh gosh, and then next week it's a kind of different episode and focus. But come on, he says he watches all telly and all the rest of it, and he knows all the fads that are going on. Well, I'm watching them too, mate, and they still do cliffhangers out there. I just don't know why he's anti it. You
know, unless the whole season's going to be one connected story, this short 8-episode thing just doesn't allow for it.
Yeah. It's just I can't cope with if it's another 8-episode season, which it is, and then he says, well, 2 of them are joined, you know, at the end.
But they tried that with obviously the previous Doctor, the Flux. That was the story arc. And that was, but I don't know, I can't even remember many of the cliffhangers from that season. So they have tried it. Obviously, it was Chris Chibnall who did that season, so it's a different. But I just wonder whether, you know, Rusty, he might try a different dynamic in season 2. He might think, you know,
let's hope.
But the only bad thing is that they did both seasons, filmed it together. So it's a shame that he couldn't have like a 6-month break to then take on the feedback from the fan base and perhaps course correct. And he can't do anything. He can't change too much because he's already done it all. It's in post-production.
What about going back to sort of like a classic style cliffhanger? You know, and I'm not talking about like from Tom Baker onwards, that more like back to the William Hartnell, where they sort of ran the stories into each other a little bit more and the cliffhanger each time. And you know, they even did that with this, like the standalone stories like that they did or something.
They did that a lot during the Davison era too.
Yeah.
Yes,
true,
they did.
Actually, yeah.
Now, Gary, you were checking whether I was going to mention the ending. If we're mentioning cliffhangers, the end of episode 4 isn't a cliffhanger, but it's an ending. You wanted to mention that.
I really, really, really loved the way that this story ended, in a scene that they didn't really have to do, but it just shows that. I mean, it takes anytime you have a scene where the characters are there more than just to serve as exposition or the plot, it's great. So in this scene, you see, well, yeah, Mike was, you know, misguided, you know, he ended up dead, but still he was there he served with these people for an unknown period of time, and yes, he was misguided at the end, but to kind of honor that serving. You have Gilmore there, fully like formally dressed. There's Allison and Rachel kind of going in because they're still mourning him. He was, just because he turned out to be misguided, and doesn't mean that they don't mourn him. And then that great line about where he says, Ace is still unsure, did we do good? And you can tell she really doesn't know. She says, did we do good? She's not sure. And he says, well, time will tell.
Time will tell.
Which is a very McCoy line. I just thought the tone of that scene was great. That's the reason why I loved the last scene in Black Orchid. You didn't need the scene where Davison and the crew stayed for George Cranley's funeral, but it kind of caps off the fact that they respected the people they were around enough to it's more than just, adventure's over, on to the next one. Scenes like this really emotionally ground the show, and it was a great kind of wrap up for this story.
Ending the proper wrap up. I agree.
You see, and you've got lots of people in the thread agreeing with you. I did note that, Gary. I have to say, I thought, gosh, I'd forgotten the funeral scene was there, I have to say. And that I referenced as an example, RTD, but with his compressed format, he wouldn't have that cafe scene, I don't think. And you certainly wouldn't have the funeral scene. And yet, as you've just said, Gary, and I agree with every word, it makes it. It actually makes it. As Rachel will say, it's another scene that I have to set up. It costs, but I think it really helps the story. It just has balance. Unlike most of RTD stories, there's no kind of moment I'm going, so why did they do that? What happened to so-and-so? It is all there. It's a very poignant human moment in a story that is all about how humans should relate to each other. Yeah. Now I'm going to mention one of my favorite moments, and I'll ask what everybody is. It was. Do you know what? When I watched this again today, the lone Dalek in Totter's Yard scrapyard, and it took a bit to kill it, and I thought, this is just like Dalek Eccleston. You only ever need one Dalek. You don't need a fleet or anything. And I kind of enjoyed this in episode 1 because at this point, they didn't know what they were up against. We've said earlier, so I won't repeat it all about the special effects and the shooting. And it took a while to kill this one off.
And it reminds me of Dalek from 2005. It's got a parallel. Yeah.
And there's the effect we were talking about.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
And this was great because you had that. Then you had the viewpoint of the Dalek. We've had that before in Death of the Daleks.
We did have we had an fact. Yeah.
It's a metal toilet roll.
Metal pipe. Yeah, metal pipe. Isn't it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I remember.
But yeah, that's one of my guilty pleasures in this story. Scott, if I had to say one moment that you thought was brill, while you're thinking, I love the Dalek being on fire.
Yeah, really was. It's not.
Oops. Obviously, an effect went too far. It doesn't have to be your fave, Scott. Just
I have two scenes what I like. Obviously, the first cliffhanger on part 1, obviously when the Dalek is coming upstairs.
Yeah.
And when McCoy obviously is confronting Davros, and obviously the can't remember the line now. It says unlimited voice put in that line there.
Yes.
Like you're pretty much saying to him, bugger off, I'm in charge, you're not. Go away. And those are the only two. If someone says to me, the Remembrance of the Daleks, Doctor, I'm like, yeah, 2 scenes are the best.
Okay, magic. Rachel, your go-to in this Remembrance where you thought, oh, this is beautiful, Doctor Who. This is great.
Probably, oh gosh, it's really tough because it is a good episode.
It is, yeah.
But probably it's got to be Davros. I love Davros.
The reveal. The
reveal of Davros. Mm-hmm.
I remember writing for a fanzine. I had to talk about the development of Davros up to this moment, and as an actress, he's gone on some journey by this point. He was really he was off his head in this episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely bonkers. I mean, he's always bonkers anyway, but even more so in this one. This man has this thing has some very, very serious issues going on, you know.
Do you
And they
like
have a
that?
field day studying him.
You know, like when you see him in Genesis and he's a scientist discussing science with the Fourth Doctor. Do you like that this is almost where he ended up in Classic Who?
Yes,
like
I
a
do,
megalomaniac. Do you like that?
Yeah, I do like that. That's quite an arc, you know, to actually do that. But yes, I do like that. I do like Davros. Oh, and sorry.
No, sorry.
Sophie Aldred is very good in this.
She is. She's never my favorite character, and you know, Sophie's not Ace. You know,
Same.
But I have to call it out. Yes, this story, they were on fire. They were brilliant.
Yeah.
Gary, what's your go-to moment or moment?
Is the scene where another quiet scene. Like I said, I think the quiet scenes in the story are amazing. The scene with the Doctor and Ace in the stairwell as he's explaining to her, giving her the kind of potted history of Skaro. Not so much that part, but the part where it's clear that everything he's doing is to arrange things to minimize the casualties among the soldiers and the people in the countermeasures group. That's his ultimate goal, is to make sure that there's no casualties, you know, amongst the humans here. And he's just wants the Daleks to wipe themselves out with minimal human casualties. I thought that's totally the Doctor. And it was, I love that scene.
I mean, you referenced it for a second. I mean, this is the moment in the script when he actually talks about the Daleks, that he's driving. I think, is he driving at this point? It doesn't matter, does it? The Khalids were at war with the Thals, the dirty nuclear war, the resulting. He says it fast, and I can cope with that. I think that's what you need. There was action going on. They're racing somewhere else. Ace has never come across them, as Rachel said ages ago, and so of course he wants to quickly mention what they are. I like the way she says the Daleks. She said the first, but he quickly. For any Doctor Who person, any viewer who's never watched Doctor Who or the Daleks, he quickly just tells you, there you go, bang. But we're not going to labour it. We're not going to do a Chris Chibnall big exposition with God stood there or starting the specials with Donna Noble and David Tennant saying, this is what you've missed. Oh, God. No, I get you that. Michael, where would you go on your fave moment here?
I think... because I love the idea of two different Dalek factions. I think one of my favorite moments, and it is a bit basic, is just when the Special Weapons Dalek opens up for the first time, and I remember watching it. I went, oh my God! I just thought it was just so like, yes, and it was like, I don't know why, but I really nerded out the first time I saw that. It's not the most important fact of the actual episode, but I did love the Weapons Dalek opening fire. I just thought, yes.
I agree. That's a good one.
And that maybe, Michael, it was helped because when you get any Dalek story when there are these civil wars, they always miss each other. You know,
yes. No, that did not miss a thing. That was it.
He's a one-hit bang. You're over.
Doesn't matter. And that sound of it, I loved it.
The other thing is, when Daleks do eventually hit each other, sometimes the lid comes off, their head comes off.
Yes.
But he atomizes them.
They're completely gone. They're like puffs of smoke and everything. I loved it. Brilliant.
I do love him. I think every Doctor Who fan absolutely loves him. But why isn't he ever? Right, here's a question, folks.
Why has he come back properly?
Why has he never come back?
No, I know. We've seen him in 2 New Who episodes in the background. We saw him in the two-part of Peter Capaldi, and there's another episode as well, but he's just in the background, just sitting there.
Yeah.
Matt Smith episode. I can't remember the episode.
I think someone said
the Sign of the
Daleks.
Yeah, exactly. But they should have been used properly. Or even upgraded slightly. It's even more powerful. I like stuff like that. So
Stephen Moffat should have brought back the special weapons instead of the fat Daleks.
Or the what was those awful coloured ones? The Paradigm.
That's what I'm saying. The fat Paradigm Daleks.
The jelly babies. Can you imagine the Chris Eccleston episode of Dalek, and it was the special weapons Dalek chamber?
Oh,
I mean, can you imagine the power?
I would
of that
love
scene?
that. I would have loved that. That would
Because-
have been excellent.
Because Chris Eccleston knows he would be atom.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been like,
Yeah.
you know, the bit when he's like, and he's is he going to fire at me? And he realizes that the actual weapon's not working in that episode. But if he was facing the that Dalek, is like, yeah, that would have been a whole different dynamic.
The only snag is he wouldn't be able to, because I quite like the Dalek who got its own back on its torturer with the you know, its sink plunger, and of course the special
sucks his face. Yeah.
yeah, the special weapons Dalek has no sink plunger.
No, he doesn't. No. So
Nah,
yeah.
He's no plumber. No.
No.
So but no, I was coming to that Dalek somewhere. It doesn't matter. So I'm trying to think if I've missed anything. I was ticking off all the time going, I love this. Oh, I really love this. Can I just say on the acting front, Rachel, Sylvester McCoy creeping around the school, and every time A said something, he jumps. I loved all that, you know. It took me back to Tom Baker and Leela in Robots of Death.
Yeah.
When, you know what I mean? I just thought, it was like he looked as though he really was trying to be careful, and she's da-ba-da-ba-da, and loved all that.
He makes some great acting choices in this one. He's very much what we would call in the industry a character actor. Very much. Very versatile.
Yeah.
So that's my.
And it was Terry Malloy's last appearance as Davros, isn't it?
That's right.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And
There's
he
a lot
appeared
of-
in what, 3 episodes? 3 stories?
Resurrection.
Yeah.
Resurrection, Revolution. Yeah, he was in the arc. Yeah.
It took
Yeah.
over Michael from Michael Wisher. Was it Michael Wisher?
No,
David
because in
Goodison.
Destiny it was
Goodison.
yeah, David Goodison
I
in
can't remember
Destiny
who
at all.
took
Yeah.
over.
But I liked his portrayal of Davros a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he is in the Big Finish stories. So
Oh,
just
okay.
get
Thank
him.
you for that.
And that is good. That is, I, as I said earlier, I love that one.
Yeah.
Well, please, I hope you've subscribed. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I hope you've given us a like, and I hope you've switched on your notifications. It's midday tomorrow. We're doing the detox, and it's a Sylvester special because we're going to be talking about some of the stuff coming up with Sylvester. So tune in tomorrow midday detox. With my friends Cyber Matt and Dwayne from Sirens of Audio. He'll be on. And then on Friday at midday, it will be the Minds of the Matrix. John Daly will be there, and we'll be ruminating on various topics. So thank you for joining us again, Scott.
Thank you.
And Gary, good to see you.
Careful with the ruminating. You know, sometimes that can be, tricky.
Yeah, I'm ruminating away. And thank you for giving me your time, Rachel, because she'll be straight after she'll be streaming. What's your streaming tomorrow then?
Tomorrow is Keep It Positive. So I do something a bit different in that one. It's all positive stuff. But if you want the Doctor Who stuff, Sunday it'll be Caves of Androzani at 4 p.m.
Oh, she's gone early. She's gone early. She's
That show the 80s.
Caves of Androzani. She's not messing. Michael, what's coming up on your channel?
Oh, we're actually on a break at the moment, so I've just got lots of comedy and pranks. And Beatles About features Terry Malloy in some of the pranks, if you're interested.
Oh, yes. Yes, he did, didn't he?
He does. He does some of the pranks. So if you want to see him pranking members of the public, you can see him on there.
That's a
What
good
time's
call.
that on?
Those ones are released on Saturday mornings, UK time, 8 a.m. So it'll be early in the morning for you. But yeah.
That's a good call out. I remember he was.
Rachel, you need to do that. You need to do that cave stream wearing a Cher's Jack mask.
Yeah.
What have you started? There we go.
Poor soul. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good night and join us tomorrow if you can at midday. Join Rachel's stream, Caves of Androzani. Sounds tasty, as well as the positivity, because I don't know what the news has been tonight. I hope it has been positive. Michael, I'll chat to you again. Scott, the same. And Gary, of course, I'll see you again. So,
Yeah.
Cheers,
good night,
Brendan.
everybody. See ya.
Good night, everyone. Subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, she's not got the Masterplan yet. There you go. Oh, there's Gary, who's giving costume advice to Rachel.
Yeah, well,
There's Michael. He's off to beat the Devils. And stop. You have to do a jingle, you see.